The Columbia Workshop presents two sections from T.S. Eliot's Four Quartets. Mr. John Hall Wheelock, American poet and editor, will read Burnt Norton, and Mr. James Johnson Sweeney, director of the Department of Painting and Sculpture at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, will read Little Gidding. The Columbia Workshop has asked Mr. Sweeney, who is now completing a new study of T.S. Eliot, to tell us something about the man and his work before we actually present the poems. Mr. Sweeney.
Ironically enough, an American-born writer, Thomas Stearns Eliot, is today commonly acknowledged England's leading contemporary poet. And with further irony, Eliot, for years regarded as a poet of disillusionment, the author of The Waste Land, during the last 10 years has produced perhaps the greatest English religious poem of the 20th century, Four Quartets, from which work we are today offering the first and final sections. Eliot was born in St. Louis in 1888. After graduating from Harvard University, he studied philosophy at the Sorbonne in Paris, at Oxford in England. In 1915, he married in England and settled there, later becoming a British subject. In 1922, his long poem, The Waste Land, was awarded the Dial Prize in New York. The same year, he founded the Criterion in London, which was to become the leading literary magazine of the next decade and a half. During this period, his reputation as a literary critic and poet steadily grew. Eliot, as a poet, is notable for his interest in everyday conversational rhythms and homely imagery, for an understatement that is frequently unappreciated in quarters where rhetoric is demanded of poetry. But if his expression, he is essentially a man of his own period, he recognizes the timelessness of art. And in the two sections of the four quartets which you are going to hear this afternoon, Burnt Norton and Little Gidding, Eliot builds up word pictures and word rhythms around the theme of eternity. From the title, Four Quartets, it is evident the author wishes us to see in each of these sections a pattern of ideas and relationships such as we are accustomed to find in musical compositions. In Burnt Norton, he symbolizes the timelessness of reality by the constant return of childhood memories. In Little Gidding, by the deathlessness of love. But in poetry as rich as Eliot's, as in all true art, sensuous appreciation should come first and intellectual consideration later. For this brief reading, therefore, let us suggest a concentration on the word pictures and word music of the poem, as we might approach two quartets of Beethoven. Mr. John Hall Wheelock, himself well known to you as a poet, will open the reading of Eliot's Four Quartets with the first section, Burnt Norton.
Time present and time past are both perhaps present in time future, and time future contained in time past. If all time is eternally present, all time is unredeemable. What might have been is an abstraction, remaining a perpetual possibility only in a world of speculation. What might have been and what has been point to one end, which is always present. Footfalls echo in the memory down the passage which we did not take, towards the door we never opened into the rose garden. My words echo thus in your mind. But to what purpose disturbing the dust on a bowl of rose leaves, I do not know. Other echoes inhabit the garden. Shall we follow? Quick, said the bird, find them, round the corner. Through the first gate, into our first world, shall we follow the deception of the thrush? Into our first world. There they were, dignified, invisible, moving without pressure over the dead leaves, in the autumn heat, through the vibrant air. And the bird called in response to the unheard music hidden in the shrubbery, and the unseen eye-beam crossed, for the roses had the look of flowers that are looked at. There they were as our guests, accepted and accepting. So we moved, and they, in a formal pattern, along the empty alley into the box circle, to look down into the drained pool, dry the pool, dry concrete, brown-edged, and the pool was filled with water out of sunlight, and the lotus rose quietly, quietly. The surface glittered out of heart of light, and they were behind us, reflected in the pool. Then a cloud passed, and the pool was empty. Go, said the bird, for the leaves were full of children, hidden excitedly, containing laughter. Go, 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 said the bird. Humankind cannot bear very much reality. Time past, and time future, what might have been and what has been, point to one end, which is always present. Garlic and sapphires in the mud clot the bedded axle tree. The trilling wire in the blood sings below inveterate scars and reconciles forgotten wars. The dance along the artery, the circulation of the lymph are figured in the drift of stars. Ascend to summer in the tree. We move above the moving tree in light upon the figured leaf, and here upon the sodden floor below the boarhound and the boar pursue their pattern as before, but reconciled among the stars. At the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards, at the still point there the dance is, but neither arrest nor movement. And do not call it fixity, where past and future are gathered. Neither movement from nor towards, neither ascent nor decline. Except for the point, the still point, there would be no dance, and there is only the dance. I can only say, there we have been, but I cannot say where, and I cannot say how long, for that is to place it in time. The inner freedom from the practical desire, the release from action and suffering, release from the inner and the outer compulsion, yet surrounded by a grace of sense, a white light still and moving, Erhebung without motion, concentration without elimination, both a new world and the old made explicit, understood in the completion of its partial ecstasy, the resolution of its partial horror. Yet the enchainment of past and future, woven in the weakness of the changing body, protects mankind from heaven and damnation, which flesh cannot endure. Time past and time future allow but a little consciousness. To be conscious is not to be in time, but only in time can the moment in the rose garden, the moment in the arbor where the rain beat, the moment in the drafty church at Smokefall be remembered, involved with past and future. Only through time, time is conquered. Here is a place of disaffection, time before and time after in a dim light, neither daylight, investing form with lucid stillness, turning shadow into transient beauty, with slow rotation suggesting permanence, nor darkness to purify the soul, emptying the sensual with deprivation, cleansing affection from the temporal. Neither plenitude nor vacancy, only a flicker over the strained, time-ridden faces, distracted from distraction by distraction, filled with fancies and empty of meaning, tumid apathy, with no concentration, men and bits of paper whirled by the cold wind that blows before and after time, wind in and out of unwholesome lungs, time before and time after. Eructation of unhealthy souls into the faded air, the torpid driven on the wind that sweeps the gloomy hills of London, Hampstead and Clerkenwell, Camden and Putney, Highgate, Primrose and Ludgate. Not here the darkness in this twittering world. Descend lower, descend only into the world of perpetual solitude, world not world, but that which is not world, internal darkness, deprivation and destitution of all property, desiccation of the world of sense, evacuation of the world of fancy, inoperancy of the world of spirit. This is the one way, and the other is the same, not in movement, but abstention from movement, while the world moves in appetency on its metalled ways of time past and time future. Time and the bell have buried the day. The black cloud carries the sun away. Will the sunflower turn to us? Will the clematis stray down, bend to us? Tendril and spray clutch and cling? Chill, fingers of you be curled down on us? After the kingfisher's wing has answered light to light and is silent, the light is still, at the still point of the turning world. Words move, music moves, only in time, but that which is only living can only die. Words, after speech, reach into the silence. Only by the form, the pattern, can words or music reach the stillness, as a Chinese jar still moves perpetually in its stillness. Not the stillness of the violin while the note lasts, not that only, but the coexistence. Or say that the end precedes the beginning, and the end and the beginning were always there, before the beginning and after the end, and all is always now. Words strain, crack, and sometimes break under the burden, under the tension, slip, slide, perish, decay with imprecision, will not stay in place, will not stay still. Shrieking voices, scolding, mocking, or merely chattering, always assail them. The word in the desert is most attacked by voices of temptation. The crying shadow in the funeral dance, the loud lament of the disconsolate chimera. The detail of the pattern is movement, as in the figure of the 10 stairs. Desire itself is movement, not in itself desirable. Love is itself unmoving, only the cause and end of movement, timeless and undesiring, except in the aspect of time, caught in the form of limitation between unbeing and being. Sudden, in a shaft of sunlight, even while the dust moves, there rises the hidden laughter of children in the foliage. Quick now, here, now, always. Ridiculous, the waste, sad time stretching before and after.
James Johnson Sweeney continues the Columbia Workshop's presentation of T.S. Eliot's 4 quartets by reading the final movement entitled Little Gidding.
Midwinter's spring is its own season, sempiternal though sodden towards sundown, suspended in time between pole and tropic. When the short day is brightest with frost and fire, the brief sun flames the ice on pond and ditches in windless cold that is the heart's heat, reflecting in a watery mirror, a glare that is blindness in the early afternoon. And glow more intense than blaze of branch or brazier stirs the dumb spirit, no wind, but Pentecostal fire in the dark time of the year. Between melting and freezing, the soul's sap quivers. There is no earth smell or smell of living thing. This is the springtime, but not in time's covenant. Now the hedgerow is blanched for an hour with transitory blossom of snow, a bloom more sudden than that of summer, neither budding nor fading, nor in the scheme of generation. Where is the summer, the unimaginable zero summer? If you came this way, taking the route you would be likely to take, from the place you would be likely to come from, if you came this way in Maytime, you would find the hedges white again in May, with voluptuary whiteness. It would be the same at the end of the journey. If you came at night like a broken king, if you came at day, not knowing what you came for, it would be the same. When you leave the rough road and turn behind the pigsty to the dull facade and the tombstone, and what you thought you came for is only a shell, a husk of meaning from which the purpose breaks only when it is fulfilled, if at all. Either you had no purpose, or the purpose is beyond the end you figured and is altered in fulfillment. There are other places which also are the world's end, some at the sea jaws, or over a dark lake, or in a desert, or a city, but this is the nearest, in place and time, now and in England. If you came this way, taking any route, starting from anywhere, at any time or at any season, it would always be the same. You would have to put off sense and notion. You are not here to verify, instruct yourself, or inform curiosity, or carry report. You are here to kneel where prayer has been valid. And prayer is more than an order of words, the conscious occupation of the praying mind, or the sound of the voice praying. And what the dead had no speech for when living, they can tell you being dead. The communication of the dead is tongued with fire beyond the language of the living. Here, the intersection of the timeless moment is England and nowhere, never and always. Ash on an old man's sleeve is all the ash-burnt roses leave. Dust in the air suspended marks the place where a story ended. Dust inbreathed was a house, the wall, the wainscot, and the mouse. The death of hope and despair, this is the death of air. There are flood and drought over the eyes and in the mouth, dead water and dead sand contending for the upper hand. The parched, eviscerate soil gapes at the vanity of toil, laughs without mirth. This is the death of earth. Water and fire succeed, the town, the pasture, and the weed. Water and fire deride the sacrifice that we denied. Water and fire shall rot the marred foundations we forgot of sanctuary and choir. This is the death of water and fire. In the uncertain hour before the morning, near the ending of interminable night, at the recurrent end of the unending, after the dark dove with the flickering tongue had passed below the horizon of his homing, while the dead leaves still rattled on like tin over the asphalt, where no other sound was between three districts whence the smoke arose, I met one walking, loitering, and hurried as if blown toward me like the metal leaves before the urban dawn wind, unresisting. And as I fixed upon the downturned face, that pointed scrutiny which we challenged the first met stranger in the waning dusk, I caught the sudden look of some dead master, whom I had known, forgotten, half recalled, both one and many, in the brown-baked features, the eyes of a familiar compound ghost, both intimate and unidentifiable. So I assumed a double part, and cried, and heard another's voice cry, "What, are you here?" Although we were not. I was still the same, knowing myself, yet being someone other, and he a face still forming. Yet the words sufficed to compel the recognition they preceded, and so, compliant to the common wind, too strange to each other for misunderstanding, and conquered at this intersection time of meeting nowhere, no before and after, we trod the pavement in a dead patrol. I said, "The wonder that I feel is easy. Yet ease is cause of wonder. Therefore speak. I may not comprehend, may not remember, and I am not eager to rehearse my thought and theory, which you may have forgotten. These things have served their purpose. Let them be. So with your own, and pray they be forgiven by others, as I pray you to forgive, both bad and good. Last season's fruit is eaten, and the full-fed beast shall kick the empty pail. For last year's words belong to last year's language, and next year's words await another voice. But as the passage now presents no hindrance, to the spirit unappeased and peregrine between two worlds become much like each other, so I find words I never thought to speak, in streets I never thought I should revisit when I left my body on a distant shore. Since our concern was speech, and speech impelled us to purify the dialect of the tribe, and urge the mind to aftersight and foresight, let me disclose the gifts reserved for age, to set a crown upon your lifetime's effort. First, the cold friction of expiring sense without enchantment, offering no promise but bitter tastelessness of shadow fruit, as body and soul begin to fall asunder. Second, the conscious impotence of rage at human folly, and the laceration of laughter at what ceases to amuse. And last, the rending pain of reenactment of all that you have done and been, the shame of motives late revealed, and the awareness of things ill done, done to others harm, which once you took for exercise of virtue. Then fool's approval stings, and honor stains. From wrong to wrong the exasperated spirit proceeds, unless restored by that refining fire where you must move and measure like a dancer. The day was breaking. In the disfigured street he left me with a kind of valediction, and faded on the blowing of the horn. There are three conditions which often look alike, yet differ completely. Flourish in the same hedgerow, attachment to self and to things and to persons, detachment from self and from things and from persons, and growing between them indifference, which resembles the other as death resembles life, being between two lives, unflowering between the live and the dead nettle. This is the use of memory for liberation, not less of love, but expanding of love beyond desire, and so liberation from the future as well as from the past. Thus, love of a country begins as attachment to our own field of action, and comes to find that action of little importance, though never indifferent. History may be servitude, history may be freedom. See now they vanish, the faces and places, the self which, as it could, loved them, to become renewed, transfigured in another pattern. Sin is behovely, but all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. If I think again of this place and of people, not wholly commendable, of no immediate kin or kindness, but some of peculiar genius, all touched by a common genius, united in the strife which divided them, if I think of a king at nightfall, of 3 men and more on the scaffold, and a few who died forgotten in other places here and abroad, and of one who died blind and quiet, why should we celebrate these dead men more than the dying? It is not to ring the bell backward, nor is it an incantation to summon the specter of a rose. We cannot revive old factions. We cannot restore old policies or follow an antique drum. These men and those who opposed them, and those whom they opposed, accept the constitution of silence and are folded in a single party. Whatever we inherit from the fortunate, we have taken from the defeated. What they had to leave us, a symbol perfected in death. And all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well, by the purification of the motive in the ground of our beseeching. The dove descending breaks the air with flame of incandescent terror, of which the tongues declare the one discharge from sin and error. The only hope, or else despair, lies in the choice of pyre or pyre, to be redeemed from fire by fire. Who then devised the torment? Love. Love is the unfamiliar name behind the hands that wove the intolerable shirt of flame which human power cannot remove. We only live, only suspire, consumed by either fire or fire. What we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. And every phrase and every sentence that is right, where every word is at home, taking its place to support the others, the word neither diffident nor ostentatious, an easy commerce of the old and the new, the common word exact without vulgarity, the formal word precise but not pedantic, the complete concert dancing together, every phrase and every sentence is an end and a beginning, every poem an epitaph. And any action is a step to the block, to the fire, down the sea's throat, or to an illegible stone. And that is where we start. We die with the dying. See they depart. We go with them. We are born with the dead. See they return and bring us with them. The moment of the rose and the moment of the yew tree are of equal duration. A people without history is not redeemed from time, for history is a pattern of timeless moments. So when the light fails on a winter's afternoon in a secluded chapel, history is now and England. With the drawing of this love and the voice of this calling, we shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and to know the place for the first time. Through the unknown, remembered gate, when the last of earth left to discover is that which was the beginning. At the source of the longest river, the voice of the hidden waterfall, and the children in the apple tree, not known because not looked for, but heard, half heard in the stillness between two waves of the sea. Quick now, here, now, always, a condition of complete simplicity, costing not less than everything, and all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well, when the tongues of flame are infolded into the crowned knot of fire, and the fire and the rose are one.
The Columbia Workshop has presented 2 of the 4 parts of T.S. Eliot's 4 quartets. The program was produced by Robert Louis Cheon and presented by John Hall Wheelock, American poet and editor, and James Johnson Sweeney, director of the Department of Painting and Sculpture at the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. As Mr. Sweeney has pointed out, ironically enough, an American-born writer, Thomas Stearns Eliot, is today commonly acknowledged England's leading contemporary poet. And with further irony, Eliot, for years regarded as a poet of disillusionment, the author of Wasteland, during the last 10 years has produced perhaps the greatest English religious poem of the 20th century, 4 quartets, from which work we have today offered the first and final movements. Next week, the Columbia Workshop will present Urban Shaw's New Yorker magazine story, Act of Faith, as adapted for radio by Charles S. Monroe of the CBS Program Writing Division. John Dietz will direct for the workshop. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Calling Flight 6. This is WSC calling Flight 6. Switch over to Martin's Creek. Theme. Keep altitude 5,000. Q. Calling 3Q. Calling 3Q. This is station.
Hello, London. Hello, London. New York calling. We are ready with Mr. Aldous.
Storm warning. Storm warning. To all ships in the vicinity of Cape Hatteras. To all ships in the vicinity of Cape Hatteras. Low pressure hurricane area.
Calling car 621. Calling car 621. A robbery has been committed at Shoe Store on Main near Center. Robbery has been
ripping the night air with the speed of light. At this moment, while you listen to one voice, the electric wings of radio speed from 10,000 high steel towers, carrying the thoughts, music, and communications of man.
36 years ago, on a Thursday in 1901, while the harsh bite of a December wind cut around a small board shack in Newfoundland, the three dots you are hearing now, representing the letter S in Morse code, sped over the turbulent Atlantic.
The target, in all the world of space, was a thin wire tossing from the end of a kite 3,000 miles away.
And the ears of a young Italian, poised for the electric sound as a bird for flight.
He heard that sound, and the wall of time cracked.
Calling all cars. Calling all cars.
Hello, Australia. Hello, Australia. New York calling. Hello.
Storm warning. Storm warning. Clouds low over Rock Heights 6. Altitude 5,000.
36 years ago this week, on a Thursday in December 1901, one man in all the world listened.
Tonight, deep in some primitive jungle, far in some snowbound wasteland, in Shanghai, Cape Town, and Medicine Hat, 500 million people are listening.
At this second, as one wave channel speaks these words to you, somewhere on a tiny tramp steamer in the South Seas, a man listens to the staccato buzz, which is his bridge to the outside world.
On a night-bound transport, the comforting hum of beam radio is guiding an aviator down the electric roadway to the Tan Bark at Croydon.
The landing apron at Newark, the airport at Burbank. As these words come to you, somewhere radio has apprehended a criminal, brought warning of angry elements, comforted the isolated.
This all because 36 years ago, a young man dreamed a dream and saw it crystallize into fantastic reality.
Tonight, on the anniversary of this epical event, the Columbia Workshop is proud to pay homage to the father of radio, Guglielmo Marconi, by presenting a dramatization of R.N.E. Dunlap Jr.'s book, Marconi, the Man and His Wireless.
"403 years after Christopher Columbus charted unknown seas and found the new world of land, another young Italian dreamed of an unconquered world of space. The year 1895. The Villa Grifoni in Pontecchio, Italy.
Come, Guglielmo. Enough of this nonsense. I have many things to attend to.
Oh, Father, don't be so impatient with him.
I shall have it ready in just 1 second.
If you clutter this house up with more wires and machinery, we will have to move out to the stables.
Don't mind him, son.
There. Now watch, Father. I press this switch. So. Do you hear?
The bell, yes, so.
But there are no wires between the switch and the bell, Father. The bell is 2 floors removed, and I've made it ring.
Guglielmo.
How is it done?
Hertzian waves. They were discovered by a German Jew named Heinrich Hertz. He's a professor at Kiel. I've been studying his work at school. Now that I'm finished, I want to continue experimenting where he left off.
Guglielmo, what use can it be? I grant you it's strange, fantastic, this ringing a bell without using wires, but let us be realistic. Wire can be used. All you have accomplished is to save the cost of a few feet of cheap wire.
Always realistic. Oh, leave him be. The work excites and amuses him, and that is enough.
But, Mother, you don't understand. Can't you see? If these waves are powerful enough to cut through floors, they may reach across a town, a country, a continent. Why, it sounds incredible, I know. But someday we may be able to send them across ocean.
Oh, Guillermo, I like your spirit and enthusiasm. It's a fine thing for a young man to have, but one must control oneself. Suppose what you say is true. Suppose I grant you that these waves will cut across oceans. Why would anyone want to ring a bell in, say, America?
Well done. What is your answer to that?
If these waves can carry the impulse to ring a bell, why can't the bell spell out words? Messages. Imagine, through the air, faster than the swiftest bird can fly.
Why, you're right, Father. It's so simple it hasn't occurred.
Of course. Think. No cables, no obstacles, and people communicating over thousands of miles.
Well, suppose...
I think it's a great ambition, Guglielmo. Work on it, son. Work hard.
But surely some scientist would have thought of utilizing these waves if it were possible. Someone would have learned if these waves can carry more than a few feet to ring a bell.
I've thought of that, Father, and I must admit you seem right. There are men of much greater training and ability in physics. Faraday, Hertz, Maxwell, who must have tried. But there is still a chance that I may succeed.
Well, of course, but it may be an idle dream. You may waste important years only to fail. Well, I'm glad you had a chance to study such things at college, but now you must be more serious. You must start setting the foundation for your career.
But this is my career.
Yes, Father, you must let him.
Well, you can toy around with it and still shape a more serious career. I want you to study music, Guglielmo. There is something for it. It has its roots and traditions in our soil. Verdi, Respighi, Donizetti, Carlini. There you have men of whom the world has heard. They left something.
No, I am determined to go on, Father. This work will require all my time. The world has heard of Hertz and Faraday and Maxwell. Maybe someday they'll hear of Marconi.
Constantly encouraged by his Scotch mother, the 22-year-old Italian boy pursued his dream, sent the magic Herzchen waves from one end of the house to the other, and then from the house to the lawn, and soon convinced his doubting father of its great possibilities.
Signor Marconi contributed $1,000, and in the spring of 1895, the boy inventor started to test wireless in open space. Greater and greater were the distances spanned, until the signal had covered the unbelievable length of 1 mile. In some weeks after the first test, while young Marconi worked,
What are you planning to do today, Guglielmo?
I'm going to try to send a signal to Alfonso.
But you did that yesterday.
Oh, but yesterday I could see Alfonso, and he waved a flag when he heard my signal. Today he's beyond it.
Why there?
Because only one great obstacle still remains. I do not know whether these waves will cut through all objects. The hill is more than 3/4 of a mile wide at the base. If it is penetrated in this test, very few barriers remain.
No, but how will you know if he hears you?
Alfonso has a shotgun. If he hears the signal, he will fire it.
Do you really think it will cut through?
We shall see, Father. We shall see. I think you'd better stand a bit further back from the star coil. I'm using more power today.
All right, Guglielmo.
Thank you, Father. And now we try.
Well?
Perhaps Alfonso wasn't ready. I'll try it again. He heard it, Father. Oh. He heard it.
The gunshot from behind the hill became the first salute to wireless. But Marconi's dream was only half accomplished. And for 4 more years, he worked tirelessly, simplifying apparatus, improving technique, increasing power and distance. Until in 1899, Europe was startled to hear that a wireless message had been sent across the English Channel, a distance of 24 miles.
And then, in the heart of the young Italian, a new dream burned.
That dream was to conquer the Atlantic. In July 1900, Marconi and his 2 assistants, Kemp and Paget, went to the barren west tip of England and selected Paulsview as the site of that transmitter.
It was to be 100 times more powerful than any yet built.
Higher and higher, the mast lifted against the sky.
Then, by the end of August, 1 year later, when the masts were almost completed, a gale swept the English coast and destroyed the entire work.
Lesser men than this young Italian dreamer might not have met that scene of destruction with the calm that he did on that turbulent, wind-swept day in 1901.
Well, that's the end of a year's labor camp. We've had setbacks before, Mr. Marconi. We'd have to rebuild. No, there's no time. Conditions aren't suitable.
It would take 6 months to repair the damage, and we would run the same risk every day. We can't wait.
Perhaps another site.
No. We'll have Vivian set up temporary equipment here. The signal won't be as strong as we hoped for, but it should be strong enough. You and Paget will come with me.
Where?
To America.
America?
Of course. Why does that surprise you?
Well, now, we have no equipment, Mr. Marconi. We can't carry masts and gear all the way. How will we get our aerial wire sufficiently high to get the signal?
We'll take balloons, kites, anything that might work. We'll get that aerial up high enough somehow.
Undramatically, unnoticed, the trio of pioneers landed at St. John's, Newfoundland on Friday, December the 6th, 1901. But let Marconi's own words describe the events of a week which reshaped the destiny of mankind.
On Monday, December 9th, we began work. On Tuesday, we flew a kite with 600 feet of aerial as a preliminary test. And on Wednesday, we inflated one of the balloons, which made its first ascent during the morning. After a short while, however, the blustery wind ripped the balloon away from the wire. The balloon sailed out over the sea. We concluded perhaps the kite would be better. And on Thursday morning, in spite of a gusty gale, we managed to fly a kite up 400 feet. The critical moment had come, for which the way had been prepared by 6 years of hard and unremitting work. Despite the usual criticism directed at anything new, I was about to test the truth of my belief. Before leaving England, I had given detailed instructions for transmission of a certain signal, the Morse telegraphic S. 3 dots at a fixed time each day, beginning as soon as word was received that everything at St. John's was in readiness. If the invention could receive on the kite wire in Newfoundland some of the electric waves produced, I knew the solution of the problem of transoceanic wireless telegraphy was at hand. As the hands of the clock moved toward the appointed hour on that Thursday in December 1901, Marconi sat tightly pressing a telephone receiver to his ear, while his 2 assistants watched with tense expectancy.
Beyond rolled the unbroken ocean, nearly 2,000 miles to the coast of the British Isles.
Wireless might leap that in 1/93rd of a second.
Yet no one had taken enough interest in the experiment to climb through the snow to Signal Hill.
1/2 hour passed. I received my cable at Coldu. They've been sending for the past 30 minutes. And we haven't heard a sound.
We've checked the instruments 1,000 times.
Is the kite still up high?
Yes. I just looked out of the window. But a million other things might be wrong. Some electrical force might have led the signals astray. Perhaps they were right in England. Curvature of the earth may be a barrier.
Patience, Paget. They may not be ready in England. They may be having trouble with the transmitter.
The world must think us fools, expecting a signal through all these miles of space with nothing but air in between.
Quiet, gentlemen. We must listen carefully. We're only guessing the way. Our tuning is crude. We cannot expect success in a half hour.
Suppose it doesn't come true.
We'll calibrate our measurements better. We'll remodel our equipment. We'll try again, sooner or later.
Can the whole thing be too fantastic to work?
Quiet. I think I heard something.
What did you hear?
Please, quiet.
As I imagined. You hear anything?
Come here, Kemp. Put the receiver to your ear. Listen carefully. As I imagined. Wait. It's England. We've got them, no doubt about it. You've done it, Mr. Marconi. You've done it.
Thus, in the first year of a new century, the dawn of a new electrical age was heralded by the 3 tiny dots that spread across the Atlantic.
In less than 8 years, 180 of the world's vessels were equipped with Marconi wireless. But to the world at large, it was still untried by tragedy, unproved by catastrophe, until...
January 23rd, 1909.
Wallowing through the thick fog off Sandy Hook, the SS Republic noses out to sea, bound east for the Mediterranean. Westbound for New York, the SS Florida steams at half speed, foghorn bleating as the lookouts and bow and crow's nest peer into the fog with burning eyes, seeking the first glimpse of the Ambrose lightship. Night and fog, the throbbing of great turbines, the slow, greasy wash of the sea, and two great ships blindly groping in the dark. Filthy night, Quartermaster.
Aye, sir, it is.
Be out of it by tomorrow sundown, though. Weather's always clearer in southern waters.
Aye, sir.
Don't like fog, Quartermaster. Rather be in a typhoon any day to a North Atlantic fog. Who wouldn't, though?
Oh, I don't mind it, sir. Something nice about fog. Quiet. Peaceful. I always thought death would be something like this, sir. Peace and a heavy fog.
If death was like this and they threw in that foghorn, it'd be hell.
Aye, sir, it would, but then even the sound of a foghorn, looking at it one way, ain't so bad. Sort of like a lullaby it is.
So you're just unnatural, that's all.
Well, for instance, sir, take that foghorn right now. Sounds almost human. And listen, the fog's so thick it seems to be answering itself. Holding a conversation with itself.
Wait a minute, Quartermaster. That isn't a fog echo we're hearing.
Well, what else?
Quiet.
Oh, I've heard it many times in the fog.
Maybe so. But I don't like the sound of it. Look alive.
Aye, sir.
That's no echo we're hearing. That's another ship.
It does seem to be getting closer.
What direction it's coming from?
Well, I can't tell, sir. The sound is deceptive in the fog.
Quiet. I can't tell either.
The sea plays strange tricks on
Look
it.
alive. There's a ship bearing down on us. Hard aport.
Hard aport, sir.
Full speed ahead.
Full speed ahead, sir. We can't make it, sir. She's going to crash.
Hard aport, you fool. Hard aport.
It's no good, sir. We're going to crash. Right now, we're going to crash.
Gravity. What was that? We've been stuck amidships, sir. Order all bulkheads closed. Yes, sir. Order all passengers up the first-class saloon in their lifebelts. Yes, sir. On your way below, sir. See if Mr. Bill's wireless equipment is ready. Tell him to send for help. If we ever needed that newfangled contraption, we're going to need it this morning. Aye, sir. Mr. Ben! Mr. Ben! Mr. Ben!
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ben, is your apparatus working?
Yeah, it's pretty well smashed. Collision hit just after the shack, as you can see, sir.
You think you can get a message through?
Power's off, but I can try my emergency batteries.
Very well, do so at once. Send out the assistance call.
Yes, sir. I just have to change this lead from the battery to the coil here. There. Now we'll see if we can raise fire sconces. There you are, sir. See that nice fast spark? We're getting out all right.
Good. Tell them we've been rammed.
Yes, sir.
Give them our position and ask them.
The dawn had many ears that morning. Not only fog-bound Nantucket heard that cry for help.
The Baltic, inbound, 115 miles east of Sandy Hook, heard it and leaped forward through the great swells.
The French liner La Lorraine turned from a course and swung out to sea.
The Cunard, Lucania,
The revenue cutters Mohawk and Seneca.
all heard the faint cry for help, sputtering through the dawn. All answered.
The world knew little of spark coils and coherers and Hertzian waves on that cold January morning in 1909. But the world could understand this fact, that because of these strange things with queer names, because of this magic, the lives of more than 1,500 people had been saved.
There were other wonders to come. Less than 10 years after Marconi hurled the first thin signal across the Atlantic, just a year after wireless had saved the 1,000-odd passengers of the Republic in Florida, the first operatic broadcast in the history of radio occurred in New York. when on January 20th, 1910, microphones were placed on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera House, and the great Enrico Caruso's performance of Cavalleria Rusticana was broadcast to an audience of 50 listeners, grouped about a handful of wireless receivers in New York and Brooklyn. Dr. Lee DeForest, whose experiments with audio tubes had made this broadcast possible, makes a fantastic prediction.
Someday, vessels departing from New York will have Pagliacci, Cavalleria Rusticana, and other operatic masterpieces every evening halfway across the ocean, and then they will be entertained by concerts from London, Paris, or Berlin, the other half.
People laughed at such fanciful predictions in 1910. But 2 years later, when the sinking of the Titanic focused the world's attention on the immeasurable value of wireless, they realized that a new and indispensable factor had come into their lives. Less than 10 years later, everyone was scratching Kalina crystals and adjusting earphones to listen to the programs of KDKA and other experimental broadcasting stations. And by 1922, the man who had started it all was so intrigued with the reports of American pioneering in this new field that he visited New York in his floating laboratory, the famed steam yacht, Electra.
On a bright morning in June 1922, the golden white Electra, the largest Italian yacht ever to cross the Atlantic, slowly steamed up the bay and into the Hudson River amid the raucous cacophony of a New York harbor welcome. The anchor had scarcely splashed off the foot of 86th Street when the gentlemen of the press clambered over the side.
Hold it, Mr. Marconi. Thank you. One more shot, Mr. Marconi, please. Thanks.
Well, Miss Marconi, how's New York look to you this trip?
That's rather a difficult question, since I haven't been ashore yet.
yeah, I guess it is.
But I believe I can answer it, at least partially. The wireless tells me that New York is a lively place, for I have been listening to your broadcasts for the last 300 miles at sea.
Yeah? Oh, I didn't know the radio went so far. Well, Miss Marconi, what do you think about it?
The development of the radio broadcasting and the widespread public interest in radio here seems to indicate that the United States is far ahead of Europe.
Do you think we'll ever be able to talk on the telephone across the ocean, Mr. Marconi?
Yes, that is quite near. Much nearer than some people think.
I don't know as I'd like having the world listening to my conversation.
Well, I cannot promise that the conversation will be absolutely secret between speaker and listener. But it is my conviction that the human voice will soon cross the sea.
What about the future of radio, Mr. Marconi?
Today, we communicate readily by wireless, and we haven't begun to explore the possibilities of the vacuum tube and shortwave. I think it not incredible that in the near future, even lantern slides may be projected by radio.
But even the vision of Marconi the dreamer could not anticipate in 1922 what his life work has since accomplished. For today,
We interrupt the program regularly scheduled at this time to bring you the abdication speech of the King of England.
At long last, I can say a few words.
Come on, snap back. Murphy drops back for a pass. No, he changed his mind. He swings around left end. 5 yards. 10.
False warning to all ranchers in the San Fernando Valley. Frost expected in...
We are broadcasting from the point about 100 yards from the front line. Over the sound of my voice, you may have heard isolated traffic sounds.
Such is the prodigious child of the humble letter S, Guglielmo Marconi, sent across the garden, through the hills, and 36 years ago this week, across the Atlantic.
Marconi, tireless in his investigation, always asked himself, what next? And then found the answer. The modern world, Marconi's world, a radio-minded world, has learned, too, to ask, what next? Expects an answer. What next? The sound you are hearing now is a television transmitter. Each second that you listen, 24 pictures are sent flying through the air to be moving images on television screens. Someday soon, just as now voice reaches you wherever you are, the events of the world will move before your eyes. That is next.
Years ago, Marconi envisioned the projection of pictures by wireless. He lived to see television an actuality. Then, on a July day last summer, death claimed him, and he left the world a much different place than he had found it. When 1,000 years from now, the kings and presidents, statesmen and warriors have been forgotten with the past, the name of Marconi will be remembered as Pythagoras, Newton, and Pasteur.
2,000 years before Marconi was born, the ancient Greeks, who started man's search into the mysterious properties of electricity when they rubbed amber against their sleeves, believed that no state could be successful unless all its citizens could gather within the sound of one voice. From the lips of the man who made such a thing possible came these words in one of the last former broadcasts he made.
The great need of the present day is for a better understanding between men and nations. And this understanding can be fostered and helped by improvements in our communications. The most direct and satisfying means of communication between man is the spoken word. In this respect, broadcast telephony occupies the unique position as being the most potent means for the instantaneous, universal dissemination of information, instruction, and entertainment the world has ever known. I am happy if by any efforts of mine I have been able to make some contribution to this international sympathy and understanding.
Columbia Workshop has presented a dramatization of Orrin E. Dunlap Jr.'s book, Marconi, the Man and His Wireless, in celebration of the 36th anniversary of the spanning of the Atlantic by wireless. William N. Robeson and Irving Reese dramatized the story for radio and directed. Next week, the Columbia Workshop will present an original radio play on the life of one of America's greatest jurists, Oliver Wendell Holmes. The play, Mr. Justice, was written especially for the workshop by Max Lerner, editor of The Nation. Tune in next Thursday at this same time for Mr. Justice. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished author, Mr. Aldous Huxley.
Brave New World is a study of the future as it may be unless we are extremely careful. It depicts a society in which man has replaced nature by science, morality by drugs, individuality by total conformity. It is a hideous prospect, yet we seem determined to follow this path of self-destruction. But Brave New World need not be our future. The choice, after all, is always in our own hands.
CBS Radio, a division of the Columbia Broadcasting System, and its 217 affiliated stations present the CBS Radio Workshop, radio's distinguished series dedicated to man's imagination, the theater of the mind. Tonight, part 2 of 2 half-hour programs devoted to one of the world's most shocking and famous novels, Aldous Huxley's terrifying forecast of the future, Brave New World. And we are proud to once again have Mr. Huxley as our narrator. Original music is composed and conducted by Bernard Herrmann.
This is Aldous Huxley. In the garden outside the London Hatchery and Conditioning Centre, it was playtime. Naked in the warm June sunshine, 600 or 700 little boys and girls were running with shrill yells over the lawns, or playing games, or squatting silently in 2s and 3s among the flowering shrubs. And strolling across the smooth turf came the director of hatcheries and conditioning, followed eagerly by a group of new students.
And here we have playtime for our little tots. Notice the games, all carefully constructed to use as many mechanical devices as possible. In olden times, children used to play simple games using only a ball and a bat. Oh, madness. Nothing was added to increase consumption. Then came our Ford. He taught us the principle of mass production in the assembly line many centuries ago and changed all that.
Good morning, Director.
Sir, what an unexpected pleasure. Boys, this is the resident controller for Western Europe. This is his Ford ship, Mustafa Mond.
Boys?
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. I was just showing the students the children, sir.
Lovely children. Busy as bees at their unrestricted play.
Controller, if you have the time, I wonder if you might tell the students something about the bad old days.
I might. Where are you taking them?
To the Hatchery and Conditioning Center to see the manufacturing of the babies.
Very well, I'll walk along with you. Yes, in the old days, children lived in a place called home. A rabbit hole with suffocating intimacies. Maniacally, the mother... please don't be shocked at that word. The mother brooded over her children. Her children. Our Ford, or our Freud, as for some inscrutable reason he chose to call himself whenever he spoke of psychological matters, our Freud was the first to reveal the appalling dangers of family life. Unpleasant as they may seem, students, these are facts. People used to be viviparous, gave birth to their children. What were the consequences? A world dominated by mothers and fathers was a world full of every kind of perversion, from sadism to chastity. There were also husbands, wives, and lovers.
Now everyone belongs to everyone else. Thank Ford for progress.
Yes, thank Ford. Actually, we still preserve a few outmoded ethics of pre-stable societies in our savage reservations. Did you ever visit a reservation, Director?
Yes, I once went to look at the savages in New Mexico. Well, that must have been 25 years ago. Mother's, father's marriage. Oh, very repulsive.
Yes. Well, here we are. I'll say goodbye.
Goodbye, Controller, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you. And now, boys, if you'll follow me inside the hatchery. And here we are, a hive of activity. Alpha's superintending, Beta's doing the skilled work, Gamma's in green, busy at routine jobs, and Delta's in khaki, incapable of doing anything except sweeping the floor. Every member of society perfectly content to belong to his predestined caste. Except for a few criminal exceptions, which reminds me, one of those criminal exceptions is meeting us here at 11. An Alpha Plus, no less, Mr. Bernard Marx.
What has he done, sir?
What has he done? He refuses to participate in mechanical sports. He is lax. Here he comes now.
Good morning, Director.
Mr. Marx. You and Lenina Crown returned from the Savage Reservation last night, I understand.
Yes, sir. We visited some of the places you told me about last week, Director. In fact, we
silence. Your attention, please. Everyone step this way. If I have interrupted your labors, it is because a painful duty constrains me. This man who stands before you, this Alpha Plus, the highest level of society, has grossly betrayed the trust imposed in him by his heretical views on sports and Soma, by his scandalous refusal to be promiscuous. He has proved himself an enemy of society, a subverter, ladies and gentlemen, of all order and stability, a conspirator against civilization itself. For this reason, I am ordering his immediate transference to a sub-center of the lowest order. In Iceland, he will have small opportunity to lead others astray by his unfordly example. Bernard Marx, can you show any reason why I should not now execute the judgment passed upon you?
Yes, I can.
What did you say?
You told me you visited the Savage Reservation 25 years ago, Director, with a young Beta Minus, I believe. You told me she was lost during a storm and that you returned without her. I thought perhaps you'd like to see her again. Linda?
Thomas! Thomas! Oh, Thomas, it's me. Don't you remember? You're Linda. Oh, I knew I'd recognize you, Thomas. You look just the same. No one ages here. Thomas, look at me. I'm Linda. Remember? Hug me. Hold me.
What is the meaning of this? Who is this hag?
Thomas. Oh, Thomas, it's Linda. Linda, you're Beta Minus. John, look, it's him. It's your father.
Father.
What's the meaning of this disgusting joke? Who is this savage and this dreadful woman? Take them away!
It isn't a joke. It's absolutely true. I'm his mother, and you're the father.
Father, it's me, John. I'm your son.
And now who is guilty of antisocial behavior, Director?
Oh, no. No.
A father as director of hatcheries. It was out of the question. The controller asked for his resignation, and all upper caste London was wild to see the savage and his mother. Bernard Marx became a hero, and even Lenina Crown had her share of reflected glory.
Good morning, Lenina.
Oh, good morning, Fanny.
Well, you certainly seem pleased with yourself.
Yes, I am pleased. Bernard called up half an hour ago. He has to go to a party at the controller's, and he asked me if I'd take the savage to the Feelies this evening.
Oh, lucky girl. What's he like, Lenina? I've heard he's terribly good-looking.
Oh, he is, but so very odd.
In what way?
Well, the day Bernard and I left the reservation, the savage came into my room. I'd taken a Soma, so I didn't notice him until suddenly I awakened, and there he was bending over me.
What happened?
Well, naturally, I assumed something was going to happen, but instead of that, he just ran out of the room.
Well, how odd. What a terribly ungentlemanly thing to do. Doesn't he like you?
Oh, I'm sure he does, so I can't make it out. And, oh, please don't tell this to anyone, Fanny. It upsets me because I like him. I mean, I really like him.
Lenina.
I know it's immoral, but I just can't help myself. I do like him.
The days passed. Success went fizzily to Bernard's head. His diffidence turned to bumptiousness. His nonconformity was forgotten, and he became completely orthodox. The resident world controller appointed him official escort for the savage and asked him to make regular reports on the young man's reactions to civilization. This Bernard did assiduously.
Today I sent the savage to the Feelies with Lenina Crown. The feature was 3 weeks in a helicopter. Instead of holding the knobs on the chair arms, thus enabling him to experience the sensations of the lovers on the screen, the savage refused to participate. Lenina tells me he called the film vulgar and indecent. The savage refuses to take Soma and seems most distressed because the woman, Linda, his Mother, remains permanently on summer holiday. In spite of her senility and the extreme repulsiveness of her appearance, the savage frequently goes to see her and appears much attached to her. What do you mean you refuse to come down to dinner?
Bernard, I'm sick. I've eaten civilization and I'm sick.
Do you realize that I've invited the most important people in London tonight? The Ford Chief Justice is here. The arch community songster of Canterbury has flown in just to meet you.
You've changed, Bernard. You used to feel the way I do about things. I talked to Helmholtz Watson. He says you've changed, too.
I haven't. Listen, if you don't come downstairs for my dinner party, I'll be the laughingstock of London.
I'll come. Just let me read this to you first. One day, many years ago, I found this book in my mother's room. One of the Indians had found it in a cave. It must be hundreds of years old.
It's called The Complete Works of William Shakespeare. Oh, I've heard of him. We don't allow it. Smut.
But he says all the things I feel about Lenina. Listen to this. Is there no pity sitting in the clouds that sees into the bottom of my grief? Oh, sweet my mother, cast me not away. Delay this marriage for a month, a week.
Marriage? Oh, Ford, no.
Bernard.
Oh, marriage, that's too good, really.
Bernard, stop it.
And mother. Oh, sweet my mother. Oh, he's positively vulgar.
You stop
Wait
it.
till I tell Helmholtz about this.
Stop it, or I'll hit you.
Oh, come, now, where's your sense of humor?
Bernard.
Can't you see how funny it is?
Get out. I said leave me alone.
I'm leaving, John. I'm leaving.
How beauteous mankind is. Oh, brave new world that has such people in it.
The next morning, a pneumatic young girl, crisply clad in a beta-minus viscose linen suit, stood outside the door of the savage's apartment and somewhat nervously rang the buzzer.
Lenina.
You don't seem very glad to see me, John.
Not glad. Oh, if you only knew.
May I come in, then?
May I kiss your hand, Lenina?
My hand?
Admired, Lenina. Indeed, the top of admiration, worth what's dearest in the world. I wanted to do something first to show I was worthy of you.
What are you talking about?
Lenina, tell me something. I'll do anything you tell me, anything at all. I'd sweep the floor if you wanted.
But we've got vacuum cleaners here. It isn't necessary.
No, of course it isn't necessary. But some kinds of baseness are nobly undergone. I'd like to undergo something noble, just to show you how much I love you, Lenina.
Do you mean it, John?
Yes, but I hadn't meant to say it, not until I... Listen, Lenina, on the reservation, people get married.
Get what?
For always. They make a promise to live together for always.
What a disgusting idea. Answer me this question, John. Do you really like me or don't you?
I love you more than anything in the world.
Well, then, why on earth didn't you say so? Come here to me, John. Hug me.
Oh, but Lenina...
Hug me till you drug me, honey. Kiss me till I'm in a coma.
Lenina, what are you doing? No, get away from me. Don't come near me.
Hug me, honey.
You strumpet.
A gran is better than a dad.
Get out.
But don't you want
Get
me?
out of my sight.
John!
Before I kill you.
Oh, he's mad. He's gone mad.
Oh, thou weed. who art so lovely fair and smell'st so sweet that the sense aches at thee. Impudent strumpet, impudent strumpet, impudent strumpet. Hello? Yes, this is Mr. Savage. Who's ill? Linda. My mother dying. Yes, I'll come at once.
Welcome to the Park Lane Hospital for the Dying. You've come to see someone in the galloping senility ward?
Yes. My mother.
Oh, how vulgar.
You know who I mean. Linda.
Oh, yes. Room 43, bed 16. She'll be dying any minute now. This way, please.
Is there any hope?
Well, of course not. Or else she wouldn't have been sent here. Through these doors.
What are these children doing here?
Death conditioning, of course. It starts at 18 months. Every tot spends 2 mornings a week in a hospital for the dying. All the best toys are kept here, and they get chocolate ice cream on death days. They learn to take dying as a matter of course. This way. Oh, here we are. Well, I must go. I've got my batch of children coming. Time for their chocolate ice cream.
Linda? Linda, it's John. Your eyes are open, but you don't know me, do you? It's John, your son. Linda? Linda, don't you know me?
Hug me till you drug me, honey. Kiss me till I'm in a coma.
Linda. Linda?
Oh.
Mother.
The menial staff of the Park Lane Hospital for the Dying consisted of 162 deltas, 84 red-headed female twins, and 78 identical mongoloid male twins. At 6, when their working day was over, the 2 groups assembled in the vestibule of the hospital and were served their daily soma ration. It was into this crowd that the savage walked, so overcome with his grief and his remorse that he did not realize he was shouldering his way into the gathering throng.
All right, here it is, soma distribution. In good order, please. Oh, hurry up there. Stand in line for your soma.
Linda died because of this.
Oh, now don't grab. There's enough for everybody. 1 gram for an evening's delight, 2 for a trip to the gorgeous East, and 4 for a weekend in paradise.
How beauteous mankind is. How brave new world that has such people in it. Stop! Stop!
Ford is a savage.
Listen, I beg you, lend me your ears. Don't take that horrible stuff. It's poison.
Mr. Savage, please. The people are waiting.
You're slaves, all of you. Don't you want to be men? Don't you want freedom?
Freedom? Ford Almighty, call the police.
From somewhere behind the milling, angry crowd, Bernard Marx saw the savage. He and his friend Helmholtz Watson had been searching for John. Now they hurried forward.
Helmholtz, he's mad. They'll lynch him. Oh, Ford, help us.
Ford, help those who help themselves, Bernard. Come on.
Where are you going? Come back.
It's a fight, a real fight. I've been waiting all my life for this. Man at last.
I'll make you free whether you want to be or not. Give me those soma boxes.
Sir, Mr. Savage, no. Stop it.
Helmholtz, join me.
Yes.
Throw the poison pills away.
By all means, throw them away.
Stop it.
Freedom! Be men and be free!
Over here, officers, this way. Give them the
Throw them
soma
away.
spray.
Freedom!
Stand up as men. Win your freedom.
Summer spray.
Win
John.
your
John.
freedom.
Take him to the resident controller's office. All right. All right, it's all over. We're all happy now. We're so happy we all love each other, don't we? Oh, yes, we all love each other. Line up for your Soma.
So you don't much like civilization, Mr. Savage?
No, I don't.
John, you're talking to the resident controller.
We don't need your comments, Mr. Marks.
I think civilization is horrible.
And yet people are happy. They get what they want, and they never want what they can't get. They're well off, they're safe, they're never ill, they're not afraid of death, they're blissfully ignorant of passion and old age, they're plagued with no mother or father, they've got no wives or children to feel strongly about. They're so conditioned that they practically can't help behaving as they ought to behave. And you ask them to chuck this all away for liberty? My good boy.
All the same, it seems quite horrible to me.
Of course it does. Actual happiness always looks pretty squalid in comparison with the overcompensations for misery. And being contented has none of the glamour of a good fight against misfortune. Happiness is never grand.
They call this happiness. Working at an embryo assembly line, manufacturing babies.
Science, my boy. Besides, they like it. Well, Mr. Marks, the time has come. You are being sent to an island.
To an island? Oh, please, sir. Don't send me to Iceland. I promise I'll do what I should. I'll conform to the rules.
One would think he was going to have his throat cut, whereas if he had the smallest sense, he'd understand his punishment is really a reward. He'll be sent to an island where he'll meet the most interesting set of men and women in the world. All the people who weren't satisfied with orthodoxy. Everyone, in a word, who's anyone.
Then why didn't you go to an island yourself?
Because, finally, I preferred this. Sometimes I regret it. Happiness is a hard master, particularly other people's happiness. Well, gentlemen, there are many islands available. Which climate do you choose, Mr. Watson?
Well, I should like a thoroughly bad climate. I think I'd write better if I had to contend with difficulties.
How about the Falkland Islands?
That would be fine.
Good. You may leave now. You too, Mr. Marks.
Goodbye, Helmholtz. Goodbye, Bernard.
Goodbye, John.
Goodbye, John.
One more question.
Of course.
Where is God in this scheme of yours?
It's a subject that has always had a great interest for me. You've never read this, of course, the Holy Bible, New and Old Testaments. I've got quite a few revolting old books like that here.
But if you know about God, why don't you tell the people?
This book is old. It's about God hundreds of years ago, not God now.
But God doesn't change.
Men do, though. No, my friend. Call it the fault of civilization. God isn't compatible with machinery and scientific medicine and universal happiness.
But when you're alone, it's natural to believe in God. When you're quite alone in the night, thinking about death.
But people are never alone now. We make them hate solitude, and we arrange their lives so that it's almost impossible for them ever to have it. No solitude, no God.
Is that why there's no self-denial here? No God, no reason for it?
Of course. Industry and prosperity are only possible when there is no self-denial. If there were, the wheels would stop turning.
But God's the reason for everything noble and fine and heroic.
My dear young friend, civilization has absolutely no need for nobility or heroism. You're conditioned so that you can't help doing what you ought to do. And what you ought to do is, on the whole, so pleasant. So many of the natural impulses are allowed free play that there really aren't any temptations to resist. Anybody can be virtuous now. No temptations, No inconveniences.
But I like the inconveniences.
We don't. We prefer to do things comfortably.
But I don't want comfort. I want God. I want poetry. I want real danger. I want freedom. I want goodness. I want sin.
In fact, you're claiming the right to be unhappy.
All right. I'm claiming the right to be unhappy.
Not to mention the right to grow old and ugly and impotent. The right to have cancer. The right to have too little to eat. The right to live in constant apprehension of what may happen tomorrow. The right to be tortured by unspeakable pains of every kind.
I claim them all.
You're welcome.
Bernard and Helmholtz left for their islands, but the savage was not allowed to go with them. The controller wished to continue the experiment. 3 weeks later, the savage ran away. After some days of wandering, he took refuge in an abandoned lighthouse. But his desire for solitude was not to be fulfilled. His hiding place was discovered. There were articles in the papers. Sightseers came by the thousands. One Sunday, Lenina Crown came for a picnic with 3 of her latest boyfriends. The day after her visit, 2 young reporters came to call, hoping for an exclusive interview. The door of the lighthouse was ajar. They pushed it open and walked into a shuttered twilight. Through an archway on the further side of the room, they could see the bottom of the staircase that led up to the higher floors. Just under the crown of the arch dangled a pair of feet. They called. No one answered. They saw him. At last the savage had found solitude. He was alone, quite alone.
Thus concludes Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. We wish to thank Mr. Huxley for appearing on these broadcasts as our narrator. And we would also like to thank you, our listeners, for your enthusiastic response to this new series. This is William Conrad inviting you to join us again next week when we present George Stewart's dramatic account of one of nature's most terrifying phenomena, storm. The following week, listen as Dr. Frank C. Baxter interviews William Shakespeare. Presented on the CBS Radio Workshop.
The CBS Radio Workshop is produced and directed by William Frug. Brave New World was adapted for radio by Mr. Frug. Featured in the cast were Joseph Kearns, Herb Butterfield, Bill Idelson, Gloria Henry, Charlotte Lawrence, Parley Bear, Doris Singleton, Jack Crucian, Vic Perrin, and Lorene Tuttle. Original music composed and conducted by Bernard Herrmann. America listens most to the CBS Radio Network.
Here sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings. How some have been deposed, some slain in war, some haunted by the ghosts they have deposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, all murdered. For within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of a king keeps death his court, and there the antic sits, scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath, a little scene to monarchize, be feared, and kill with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh which walls about our life were brass impregnable. And humor thus comes at the last, and with a little pin bores through his castle wall. And farewell, King.
Today, and again next Sunday at the same time, the Columbia Workshop, radio's foremost laboratory of writing and production techniques, has the honor to present the Old Vic Theatre Company of London, England. Their first radio appearance in the United States, a special hour and one-half arrangement of The Tragedy of King Richard III by William Shakespeare, with Laurence Olivier in the role of Richard and Ralph Richardson as the narrator. The musical score is original with and is conducted by Herbert Menges. The Old Vic Theatre Company is directed by John Burrow, who has, for these workshop broadcasts, the association of Richard Sanville of CBS. The text was prepared for radio by James and Elizabeth Hart.
Richard III is the final play in Shakespeare's great historical cycle, which depicts the rise and fall of the royal house of Plantagenet. It is the bloodiest chapter in a chronicle which abounds in bloodshed, the darkest scene in a dark panorama of hate, treachery, and ambition turned to mania. Yet the greatest part of Richard III's action takes place in the first period of real peace that England had known for a century. The interminable wars with France were over. Just over, too, was the long and terrible struggle for the English crown between the Lancastrian and the Yorkist branches of the royal house, called the Wars of the Roses. If Richard III touches deeper chords of terror than the preceding plays, the reason is not to be found in the greater violence of the historic events it traces, but in the character of Richard himself. Here is Richard.
Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this sun of York. And all the clouds that lowered upon our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Now are our brows bound with victorious wreaths, our bruised arms hung up for monuments, our stern alarums changed to merry meetings, our dreadful marches to delightful measures. Grim-visaged war has smoothed his wrinkled front. And now, instead of mounting barbed steeds to fright the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly in a lady's chamber to the lascivious pleasing of a lute. But I, that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking glass, I that am rudely stamped and want love's majesty to strut before a wanton ambling nymph, I that am curtailed of this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed, unfinished, sent before my time into this breathing world, scarce half made up, and that so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt by them. Why, love forswore me in my mother's womb, and for I should not deal in her soft laws, she did corrupt frail nature with some bribe to shrink mine arm up like a withered shrub, to heap an envious mountain on my back, to shape my legs of an unequal size, to disproportion me in every part, like to a chaos or an unlicked bare whelp that carries no impression like the dam. Why, I, in this weak piping time of peace, have no delight to pass away the time, unless to spy my shadow in the sun, and descant on mine own deformity. Then, since this world affords no joy to me, but to command, to check, to o'erbear such as are of better person than myself, I'll make my heaven to dream upon the throne, and whiles I live to account this world but hell, until my misshaped trunk that bears this head be round impaled with a glorious crown. But yet I know not how to get the crown, for many lives stand between me and home, and I, like one lost in a thorny wood, that rents the thorns and is rent with the thorns, seeking a way and straying from the way, not knowing how to find the open air, but toiling desperately to find it out, torment myself to catch the English crown, and from that torment I will free myself, or hew my way out with a bloody axe. Why, I can smile and murder whiles I smile, and cry content to that which grieves my heart, and wet my cheeks with artificial tears, and frame my face to all occasions. I'll drown more sailors than the mermaid shall. I'll play the orator as well as Nestor, deceive more slyly than Ulysses could, and like a Sinon, take another Troy. I can add colors to the chameleon, change shapes with Proteus for advantages, and send the murderous Machiavel to school. Can I do this, and cannot get a crown? Tut, were it further off, I'd pluck it down.
Richard in the year 1471, his portrait painted by his own hand. He could look into himself and see his bitter, twisted heart, his brilliant, twisted mind, as clearly as he could see his withered, twisted body in a looking glass. And though he was only Duke of Gloucester, King Edward's youngest brother, his succession barred by Edward's two sons and by the Duke of Clarence, his second eldest brother, it was already on the throne his sights were set. Though he was without wealth or property, he was already scheming to acquire both by marrying the woman who had more cause than anyone in the world to hate him. This woman was Anne, the daughter of the great Earl of Warwick, whom Richard's troops had slain in battle, daughter-in-law of Henry VI, the Lancastrian king, whom Richard had murdered in the Tower of London, widow of Henry's son, the Prince of Wales, whom Richard and his brothers had taken prisoner and stabbed to death. And now, Richard is about to commence his loveless wooing of this lady. Regard him as he stands in the shadow of a London doorway and watches her approach down the narrow street. Anne is escorting an open coffin in which lies the body of Henry VI, her father-in-law and Richard's victim. She's bound for the burial ground at Chertsey.
Set down your honorable load. His honor may be shrouded in a hearse, whilst I, a while, obsequiously lament the untimely fall of virtuous Lancaster. What key-cold figure of a holy king, pale ashes of the house of Lancaster, thou bloodless remnant of that royal blood. Be it lawful that I invocate thy ghost to hear the lamentations of poor Anne, wife of thy Edward, of thy slaughtered son, stabbed by the selfsame hand that made these wounds. Oh, cursed be the hand that made these holes. Cursed the heart that had the heart to do it. Cursed the blood that let this blood from hence. Come, now towards Chertsey with your holy load, taken from Paul to be interred there.
Stay! You that bear the cross, and set it down.
What black magician conjures up this fiend?
Villain, set down the cross, or by St. Paul, I'll make a cross of him that disobeys.
What? Do you tremble? Are my gods afraid?
Unmannered dog, stand down when I command.
Alas, I blame you not. For you are mortal, and mortal eyes cannot endure the devil. Avaunt, thou dreadful minister of hell.
Sweet saint, for charity be not so cursed.
Foul devil, for God's sake, hence and trouble us not. Villain, thou knowest no law of God nor man. No beast so fierce, but knows some touch of pity.
But I know none, and therefore am no beast.
Oh, wonderful when devils tell the truth.
More wonderful when angels are so angry. Vouchsafe divine perfection of a woman, to leave this keen encounter of our wits and fall somewhat into a slower method, is not the causer of the timeless deaths of these Plantagenets, Henry and Edward, as blameful as the executioner?
Thou wast the cause, and most accursed effect.
Your beauty was the cause of that effect. Your beauty that did haunt me in my sleep to undertake the death of all the world so I might live 1 hour in your sweet bosom.
If I thought that, I tell thee, homicide, these nails should rend that beauty from my...
These eyes could not endure that beauty's rack. You should not blemish it if I stood by. As all the world is cheered by the sun, so I by that. It is my day, my life.
Let night o'ershade thy day, and death thy life.
Curse not thyself, fair creature. Thou art both. He that bereft thee, lady, of thy husband, did it to help thee to a better husband.
Name him. Where is he?
Here. Why dost thou spit at me?
Would it were morsel poison for thy sake.
Never came poison from so sweet a place.
Never hung poison on a fouler toad. Out of my sight, thou dost infect mine eye.
Teach not thy lips such scorn, for it was made for kissing, lady, not for such contempt. My tongue could never learn sweet smoothing words. But now thy beauty is proposed my fee, my proud heart sues and prompts my tongue to speak. If thy revengeful heart cannot forgive, lo, here I lend thee this sharp-pointed sword, which if thou please to hide in this true breast, and let the soul forth that adoreth thee, I lay it naked to the deadly stroke, and humbly beg the death upon my knee. Nay, do not pause, for I did kill King Henry, but 'twas thy beauty that provoked me. Nay, me up.
Rise, dissembler. Though I wish thy death, I will not be thy execution.
Then bid me kill myself, and I will do it.
I have already.
That was in thy rage. Speak it again, and even with the word, this hand which for thy love did kill thy love, shall for thy love kill a far truer love.
Oh, I would I knew thy heart.
'Tis figured in my tongue.
I fear me both are false.
Say then, my peace is made.
That shalt thou know hereafter.
But shall I live in hope? Vouchsafe to wear this ring.
To take is not to give.
Look, how my ring encompasseth thy finger. Even so thy breast encloseth my poor heart. Wear both of them, for both of them are thine. Bid me farewell.
'Tis more than you deserve. But since you teach me how to flatter you, imagine I have said farewell already.
Was ever woman in this humor wooed? Was ever woman in this humor won? I'll have her, but I will not keep her long. What, I that killed her husband and his father? Hath she forgot already that brave prince, Edward her lord, whom I some 3 months since stabbed in my angry mood at Tewkesbury and made her widow to a woeful bed? A sweeter and a lovelier gentleman the spacious world cannot again afford. My dukedom to a beggarly denier, I do mistake my person all this while. Upon my soul she finds, although I cannot, myself to be a marvelous, proper man. I'll be at charges for a looking glass, and entertain a score or two of tailors to study fashions to adorn my body. Since I am crept in favor with myself, I will maintain it with some little cost. Shine out, fair sun, till Clarence still breathes. Edward still lives and reigns. Clarence, beware, thou keep'st me from the light. But I will sort a pitchy day for thee. For I will buzz abroad such prophecies that Edward shall be fearful of his life, and then to purge his fear, I'll be thy death. Clarence, thy turn is next, and then the rest, counting myself but bad, till I be best. Clarence, good day. What means this armed guard?
His Majesty, I beseech your graces both to pardon me. His Majesty hath straitly given in charge that no man shall have private conference of what degree soever with your brother.
You may partake of anything we say?
His Majesty hath appointed this conduct to convey me to the Tower.
But what's the matter, brother? May I know?
Because my name is George. He hearkens after prophecies and dreams, and from the crossrow plucks the letter G, and says a wizard told him that by G his issue disinherited should be. These I learn, and such like toys as these have moved his highness to commit me now.
'Tis not the king that sends you to the Tower. It is the queen, his wife, Clarence. 'Tis she that tempers him to this extremity. We are not safe, Clarence. We are not safe.
By heaven, I think there is no man secure but the queen's kindred.
I beseech your grace to pardon me, and withal forbear your conference with the noble duke.
We are the queen's abjects and must obey. Brother, farewell. I will unto the king. Meantime, this deep disgrace in brotherhood touches me deeper than you can imagine. Well, your imprisonment shall not be long. I will deliver you. Meantime, have patience.
I must perforce.
Farewell.
Farewell.
tread the path that thou shalt ne'er return. Simple, plain Clarence, I do love thee so that I will shortly send thy soul to heaven, if heaven will take the present at our hands.
I am the Lord, here come to have the warrant that I may be admitted where he is.
I have it here. But, sir, be sudden in the execution. Withal obdure it. Do not hear him plead. For Clarence is well spoken, and perhaps may move your heart to pity if you mark him.
Tut, my lord, I shall not stand to prate. Talkers are no good doers. Be assured.
Your eyes drop millstones when fools' eyes drop tears. I like you, lad. About your business straight. Go dispatch.
Who's there? What wouldst thou, fellow? And how camest thou hither?
I would speak to Clarence, and I came hither on my legs. Let him see this commission and talk no more.
I am by this commanded to deliver the noble Duke of Clarence to your hands. I will not reason what is meant hereby, because I will be guiltless of the meaning. The Duke's within asleep, and here are the keys. I'll to the king and signify to him that thus I have resigned to you my charge.
You may, sir, 'tis a point of wisdom. Fare you well.
Keeper. Give me a cup of wine.
You shall have wine enough, my lord. Anon.
In God's name, what art thou?
A man, as you are.
Thy voice is thunder, but thy looks are humble.
My voice is now the king's, my looks mine own.
How darkly and how deadly dost thou speak. Your eyes do menace me. Why look you pale? Who sent you hither? Wherefore do you come? To murder me.
Aye.
You scarcely have the heart to tell me so. Wherein, my friend, have I offended you?
Offended me you have not, but the king.
I shall be reconciled to him again.
Never, my lord. Therefore prepare to die.
If you are hard for me, go back again, and I will send you to my brother Gloucester, who shall reward you better for my life than Edward will for tidings of my death.
You are deceived. Your brother Gloucester hates you.
Oh, no. He loves me, and he holds me dear. Go you to him from me.
Aye. So I will. Look behind you, my lord. Take that. If all this will not do, I'll drown you in the Malmsey butt within.
You have heard Act One of a special hour and one-half Columbia Workshop arrangement of William Shakespeare's King Richard III, presenting the Old Vic Theatre Company of London, England, in their first American radio appearance, and starring Laurence Olivier as Richard. Act Two will follow immediately after a 15-second pause for station identification. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
With his audacious suit of wealthy Anne, a suit swiftly to be brought to its conclusion in marriage. Then, with the murder of his brother, the Duke of Clarence, Richard has launched his progress towards the throne. True, his older and one remaining brother, Edward, still reigns as king. But Richard well knows Edward is only living out a lingering death. True, Richard must count the Queen, Elizabeth, as his bitter antagonist, and with her common-born kinsmen, Dorset, Rivers, Grey, and Vaughan, whom she has raised to noble stations. But Richard knows that the Queen and her faction have themselves powerful enemies in the older nobility, chiefly in the Duke of Buckingham, Richard's own cousin. He can count on Buckingham as an ally, and he can hope for some support from Hastings, the Lord Chamberlain, just released from the Tower, blaming his imprisonment upon the Queen at Richard's sly suggestion. True, there are two small sons of the King and Queen, but Richard will deal with them in their turn. Meanwhile, hard on Clarence's death, he'll go to court, there to meet the King and Queen, Rivers, Dorset, Grey, Buckingham, and Hastings.
Good morrow to my sovereign king and queen. And princely peers, a happy time of day.
Happy indeed as we have spent the day. Gloucester, we have done deeds of charity, made peace of enmity, fair love of hate, between these swelling hate-incensed peers.
A blessed labor, my most sovereign lord. Among this princely heap, if any here by false intelligence or wrong surmise hold me a foe, if I unwittingly or in my rage have aught committed that is hardly borne by any in this presence, I desire to reconcile me to his friendly peace. It is death to me to be at enmity. I hate it, and desire all good men's love. First, madam.
My Lord of Gloucester.
I entreat true peace of you, which I will purchase with my duteous service. Now, of you, my noble cousin Buckingham.
Good, my lord.
If ever any grudge were lodged between us. Now, of you, Lord Rivers.
My lord.
And Lord Grey, of you.
My lord.
That all without desert have frowned on me. Dukes, earls, lords, gentlemen, indeed of all.
Why so? Now I have done a good day's work. And more in peace my soul shall part to heaven, since I have made my friends at peace on earth.
A holy day shall this be kept hereafter. I would to God all strifes were well compounded. My sovereign lord, I do beseech your highness to take our brother Clarence to your grace.
Why, madam, have I offered love for this, to be so flouted in this royal presence? Who knows not that the gentle duke is dead? You do him injury to scorn his cause.
Who knows not he is dead? Who knows he is?
Oh, in heaven, what a world is this?
Is Clarence dead? The order was reversed.
But he, poor man, by your first order died, and that a winged Mercury did bear, some tardy cripple bare the countermand that came too lag to see him buried.
Oh, my brother killed no man. His fault was thought, and yet his punishment was bitter death. Who sued to me for him? Who in my wrath kneeled at my feet and bade me be advised? Who spoke of brotherhood? Who spoke of love? Who told me how the poor soul did forsake the mighty Warwick and did fight for me? Who told me in the field at Tewkesbury, when Oxford had me down, he rescued me and said, "Dear brother, live and be a king"? Who told me, when we both lay in the field, frozen almost to death, how he did lap me even in his garment, and did give himself all thin and naked to the numb, cold night? All this from my remembrance, brutish wrath sinfully plucked, and not a man of you had so much grace to put it in my mind. The proudest of you all have been beholding to him in his life, yet none of you would once beg for his life. Oh, God, I fear thy justice will take hold on me, and you, and yours, and mine. Come, haste,
my lord.
Help me to my closet. Oh, poor Clara.
This is the fruit of rashness. Marked you not, my cousin Buckingham, how pale did look the guilty kindred of the Queen when they did hear of Clarence' death?
My lord, you do me shameful injury falsely to draw me in these vile suspects. And by heaven, I will acquaint his majesty of those taunts I often have endured.
What? Threat you me with telling of the king? Tell him and spare not. Look, what I have said I will avouch in presence of the king. Our brother was imprisoned by your means.
By him that raised me to this careful height, from that contented hap which I enjoyed, I never did incense his majesty against the Duke of Clarence, but have been an earnest advocate to plead for him.
You may deny that you were not the cause of my Lord Hastings' late imprisonment.
She may, my lord.
She may, Lord Rivers. Why, who knows not so? She may do more, sir, than denying that. She may help you to many fair preferments, and then deny her aiding hand therein, and lay those honors on your high desert.
My Lord of Gloucester, I have too long borne your blunt upbraidings and your bitter scoff. I had rather be a country servant maid than a great queen with this condition, to be thus baited, scorned, and stormed at. Small joy have I in being England's queen.
And let him be that small. God, I beseech him. Thy honor, state, and seat is due to me.
This is the old queen, Margaret of Anjou, widow of Henry VI, mother of Edward, Prince of Wales, both of whom found death through Richard in the struggle and set the Yorkists upon the throne. Unexpectedly returned from England from the exile in France, Queen Margaret now strides into the court she has so much cause to hate, and Richard greets her.
Thou wrinkled witch, what makest thou in my sight? Were thou not banished on pain of death?
I was, but I do find more pain in banishment than death can yield me here by my abode. Hear me, you wrangling pirates, that fall out in sharing that which you have pilled from me. Which of you trembles not that looks on me? A husband and a son thou owest to me, Gloucester, and thou a kingdom, madam, and all of you allegiance. This sorrow that I have by right is yours, and all the pleasures you usurp are mine.
The curse my noble father laid on thee when thou didst crown his warlike brows with paper, and with thy scorn drewest rivers from his eyes, and then to dry them gavest him a kerchief steeped in the blood of Rutland, my sweet brother. His curses, then from bitterness of soul denounced against thee, are all fallen upon thee, and God, not we, hath plagued thy bloody deed.
So justice.
No man but prophesied revenge for it. Cumberland and present wept to see it.
What were you snarling all before I came, ready to catch each other by the throat, and turn you all your hatred now on me? Did York's dread curse prevail so much with heaven that Henry's death, my lovely Edward's death, their kingdom's loss, my woeful banishment, should all but answer for that peevish brat? And curses pierce the cloud and enter heaven, why then give way, dull clouds, to my quick curses. Though not by war, by surfeit die your king, as ours by murder, to make him a king. Edward thy son, that now is Prince of Wales, for Edward my son, which was Prince of Wales, die in his youth by like untimely violence. Thyself a queen, for me that was a queen, outlive thy glory like my wretched self, and after many lengthened hours of grief die, neither mother, wife, nor England's queen. Rivers and Dorset, you were standers by, and so wast thou, Lord Hastings, when my son was stabbed with bloody daggers. God, I pray him that none of you may live your natural age, but by some unlooked accident cut off.
Have done thy charm, thou hateful withered hag.
And leave out thee, say, dog, for thou shalt hear me. If heaven have any grievous plague in store exceeding those that I can wish upon thee, Oh, let them keep it till thy sins be ripe, and then hurl down their indignation on thee, thou troubler of the poor world's peace. The worm of conscience still the gnaw thy soul. Thy friends suspect for traitors while thou livest, and take deep traitors for thy dearest friends. No sleep close up that deadly eye of thine, unless it be some tormenting dream affrights thee with a hell of ugly devils. Thou elfish-marked, abortive, rooting hog, thou that wast sealed in thy nativity, the slave of nature and the son of hell, thou slander of thy mother's heavy womb, thou loathed issue of thy father's loins, thou rag of honor, thou detested
Margaret.
riches.
Huh?
Oh, I called thee not.
I cry thee mercy then, for I did think that thou hadst called me all those bitter names.
Why, so I did, but looked for no reply. Oh, let me make the period to my curse.
'Tis done by me and ends in Margaret.
Thus have you breathed your curse against yourself? Poor painted queen, vain flourish of my fortune. Why strewest thou sugar on that bottle spider, whose deadly web ensnareth thee about? Fool! Fool, thou whetst the knife to kill thyself. The day will come when thou shalt wish for me to help thee curse this poisonous bunchback toad.
Peace, peace, for shame, if not for charity.
Oh, princely Buckingham, I'll kiss thy hand in sign of league and amity with thee. Thy garments are not spotted with our blood, nor thou within the compass of my curse.
Nor no one here, for curses never pass the lips of those that breathe them in the air.
I will not think, but they ascend the sky, and there awake God's gentle sleeping peace. Oh, Buckingham, take heed of yonder dog. Look, when he fawns, he bites, and when he bites, his venom tooth will wrinkle to the death. Oh, have not to do with him. Beware of him. Sin, death, and hell have set their marks on him, and all their ministers attend on him.
What doth she say, my Lord of Buckingham?
Nothing that I respect, my gracious lord.
What? Dost thou scorn me for my gentle counsel, and soothe the devil that I warned thee from? Oh, but remember this another day, when he shall split thy very heart with sorrow, and say, poor Margaret was a prophetess. Live each of you the subject of his hate, and he to yours, and all of you to God's.
My hair doth stand on end to hear her cursing. And so doth mine. I muse why she's at liberty.
I cannot blame her. By God's holy mother she hath had too much wrong, and I repent my part thereof that I have done to her.
A virtuous and a Christian-like conclusion. Madam, His Majesty doth call for you and for your grace, and you, my noble lord.
Hastings, I come. Lord, will you go with me?
Hastings?
My lord?
What news?
The king is sickly, weak, and melancholy, and his physicians fear him mightily.
Now, by St. Paul, that news is bad indeed. Oh, he hath kept an evil diet long, and overmuch consumed his royal person. 'Tis very grievous to be thought upon. What, is he in his bed?
He is.
Go you before, and I will follow you. He cannot live, I hope, and now may die, since Clarence is packed post-horse up to heaven. Clarence, whom I indeed have cast in darkness, I do beweep to many simple gulls, namely to Hastings, Catesby, Buckingham, and tell them 'tis the Queen and her allies that stirred the King against the Duke, my brother. Now they believe it, and withal whet me to be revenged on rivers foreign grey. But then I sigh, and with a piece of scripture tell them God bids us do good for evil. And thus I clothe my naked villainy with odd old ends stolen out of Holy Writ, and seem a saint when I most play the devil. Which done, God take King Edward to his mercy, and leave the world for me to bustle in.
Doth the news hold of good King Edward's death?
Aye, sir, it is true.
Then, masters, look to see a troublous world.
No, by God's good grace, his son shall reign.
Woe to the land that's governed by a child.
Lamentation. I am not barren to bring forth complaint. All springs reduce their current to mine eyes, that eyes, being governed by the watery moon, may bring forth plenteous tears to drown the world. Oh, for my husband. My dear Lord Edward.
Madam, bethink you like a careful mother of the young prince, your son. Send straight for him, let him be crowned. In him your comfort lives. Drown desperate sorrow in dead Edward's grave, and plant your joys in living Edward's throne.
'Tis well said, my Lord Rivers. Let the prince be fetched forthwith from Ludlow with some little train, hither to London to be crowned our king.
Madam, have comfort. None can cure their harms by wailing them. So let us now determine who they shall be that straight shall post to Ludlow. Convoke the lords, and do thou sit with her to give thy counsel in this weighty business.
With all my heart, good Brother Gloucester. Come, Rivers, call the others to the chamber.
I will go seek them out, madam.
A moment, noble Gloucester.
Well, speak then, Buckingham.
My lord, whoever journeys to the prince, for God's sake let not us two stay behind. For on the way, I'll sought occasion to part the queen's proud kindred from the king.
My other self, my counsel's consistory, my oracle, my prophet, my dear cousin, I, like a child, will go by thy direction. Towards Ludlow, then, for we'll not stay behind.
What is the news?
Such news my queen has grieved me to report.
The prince?
Well, madam, and in health. Last night, His Highness at Northampton lay. Tomorrow or next day he will be here.
What is thy doleful news, then?
Lord Rivers and Lord Grey have sent to Pomfret. With them Sir Thomas Bourne. Prisoners.
Who has committed them?
The mighty Dukes, Gloucester and Buckingham.
Ah, me, I see the ruin of my house. The tiger now has seized the gentle hind. Insulting tyranny begins to jet upon the innocent and aweless throne. Welcome destruction, death and massacre. I see as in a map the end of all. Now must I take my youngest, little York, and with him flee to sanctuary.
London. Dearest nephew, the weary way hath made you melancholy.
I want more uncles here to welcome me.
Those uncles which you want were dangerous. Your grace attended to their sugared words, but looked not on the poison of their hearts. God keep you from them and from such false friends.
God keep me from false friends. But they were none. I thought my mother and my brother York would long ere this have met us on the way. Oh, fie, what a slug is Hastings that he comes not to tell us whether they will come or no.
And in good time, here comes the sweating lord.
Welcome, Lord Hastings. Will my mother come?
On what occasion? God he knows, not I. The Queen your mother and your brother York have taken sanctuary. The tender prince would fain have come with me to meet your grace, but by his mother was perforce withheld.
Aye, what an indirect and peevish course is this of hers. Lord Cardinal, will your grace persuade the Queen to send the Duke of York unto his princely brother presently? If she deny him, then Lord Hastings from her jealous arms pluck him perforce.
My Lord of Buckingham, if she be obdurate to my entreaties, God in heaven forbid we should infringe the holy privilege of blessed sanctuary.
You break no sanctuary in seizing him. The benefit thereof is always granted to those whose dealings have deserved the place and those who have the wit to claim the place. My nephew neither claimed it nor deserved it, and therefore, in mine opinion, cannot have it. Oft have I heard of sanctuary men, but sanctuary children, ne'er till now.
My Lord of Gloucester, you all rule my mind. Come on, Lord Hastings. Will you go with me?
Our loving brother.
Welcome, dread lord. So must I call you now.
How fares the noble Duke of York, our nephew?
Well, gentle uncle.
Now that your brother's here, my gracious prince, myself and my good cousin Buckingham will to your mother to entreat of her to meet you at the tower and welcome you.
What? Will you go to the tower, brother?
Our Uncle Gloucester needs will have it so.
I shall not sleep in quiet at the tower.
Why? What should you fear?
Marry, my Uncle Clarence angry ghost. My grandam told me he was murdered there.
I fear no uncles dead.
Nor none that live, I hope.
And if they live, I hope I need not fear. Come, Brother York, and with a heavy heart thinking on them, go I unto the tower.
This completes Act 2 of the Columbia Workshop special hour and one-half presentation of the Old Vic Theatre Company of London, England, in William Shakespeare's Richard III. Act 3 will follow after a 15-second pause for local station identification. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
With Anne's property firmly in his grasp, his brother Clarence assassinated, King Edward dead, the Queen separated from her kinsman, and the two boy princes, Wales and York, her royal sons, detained in the Tower of London, Richard, now Lord Protector of the realm, leaps to faster and even bloodier action. He dispatches an order to Pomfret Castle in the north and the Queen's henchmen, who are his captives there, are promptly put to death. Then Hastings, the Lord Chamberlain, is forced to make a choice of loyalty between Richard and the little princes in the Tower. And Hastings, when he chooses the late King Edward's heirs, at once finds himself preposterously accused of using witchcraft to shrink Richard's long, withered arm, whereupon he too is murdered. Now, as we meet Richard once again, we hear him plotting with his ally, the Duke of Buckingham, to remove all chance of public support for the little princes in the Tower by launching slanders against their legitimacy.
Go to the Guildhall, Cousin Buckingham. There, at your meetest vantage of the time, doubt the legitimacy of Edward's children. And should there needs to say yet more, tell them that when my mother got with child that insatiate Edward, my princely father then had wars in France, and by true computation of the time found that this Edward was not his begot. Yet, touch this sparingly as 'twere far off, because, my lord, you know, my mother lives.
Doubt not, my lord, I'll play the orator, as if the golden fee for which I plead were for myself.
If you thrive well, bring them to Baynard's Castle, where you shall find me well accompanied with reverend fathers and well-learned bishops.
I go, and towards 3 or 4 o'clock, look for the news that the Guildhall affords.
What say the citizens? Touched you the legitimacy of Edward's children?
I did. His own adulterous birth likewise, as being got your father then in France. Withal, I did infer your lineaments, being the right idea of your father, both in your form and nobleness of mind. Indeed, left nothing fitting for your purpose untouched or slightly handled in discourse. And when my oratory drew towards end, I bade them that did love their country's good cry, God save Richard, England's royal king.
And did they so?
No. So God help me, they spake not a word, but like dumb statues or breathing stones stared on each other and looked deadly pale. But haply some 10 followers of my own at lower end of the hall hurled up their caps, and some 10 voices cried, God save King Richard. And thus I took vantage of these few. Thanks, gentle citizens and friends, quoth I. This general applause and cheerful shout argues your wisdom and your love to Richard. And even here brake off and came away.
Oh, will not the mayor then and his brethren come?
The mayor is here at hand. Intend some fair. Play the maid's part. Still answer nay and take it. Go within. The mayor knocks.
I go. And if you plead as well for them as I can say nay to thee for myself, no doubt we bring it to a happy issue.
Welcome, Lord Mayor and gracious citizen. Welcome, my Lord of Buckingham. I think the Duke will not bespoke withal. Here comes his servant. How now, Catesby? What says your lord to my request?
He doth entreat your grace, my noble lord, to visit him tomorrow or next day. He is within with 2 right reverend fathers, divinely bent to meditation.
Return, good Catesby, to the gracious Duke. Tell him, myself, the mayor, and aldermen, in deep designs in matter of great moment, are come to have some conference with his grace.
I'll signify so much to him straight.
Ah, my lord, this prince is not an Edward. He is not lolling on a lewd day bed, but on his knees at meditation, not dallying with a brace of courtesans, but meditating with 2 deep divines, not sleeping to engross his idle body, but praying to enrich his watchful soul. Happy where England would this virtuous prince take on his grace the sovereignty thereof.
But sure, I fear we shall not win him to it. Marry, God defend his grace should fail, nay. Look up, where he stands between two clergymen. Two props of virtue for a Christian prince. Famous Plantagenet and gracious prince, lend favorable ear to our request, and pardon us the interruption of thy devotion and right Christian zeal.
I do beseech your grace to pardon me, who, earnest in the service of my God, deferred the visitation of my friend. But leaving this, what is your grace's pleasure?
Your gracious self to take on you the charge and kingly government of this your land, not as protector, steward, substitute, or lowly factor for another's gain, but as successively from blood to blood, your right of birth, your empery, your own. For this, consorted with the citizens, and by their vehement instigation, in this just cause, come I to move your grace.
Your love deserves my thanks, but my desert, unmeritable, shuns your high request. First, if all obstacles were cut away, and my path were even to the crown, as the right revenue and due of birth, yet so much is my poverty of spirit, so mighty and so many my defects, that I would rather hide me from my greatness than in my greatness covet to be hid. But God be thanked, there is no need of me, and much I need to help you where there need. The royal tree hath left us royal fruit, which mellowed by the stealing hours of time will well become the seat of majesty. Now, on him I lay that you would lay on me, the right and fortune of his happy stars, which God defends that I should wring from him.
You say the princes are your brother's sons? So say we too, but not by Edward's wife. A beauty waning and distressed widow seduced the pitch and height of his degree to base declension and loathes bigamy. By her, in his unlawful bed, he got young Edward, whom our manners call the prince. Then, good my lord, take to your royal self this proffered benefit of dignity.
Do, good my lord, your citizens entreat you. Oh, make them joyful. Grant their lawful use.
Alas, why would you heap these cares on me? I am unfit for state and majesty. I cannot, nor I will not yield to you.
Yet, whether you accept our suit or no, your brother's son shall never reign our king. And in this resolution here, we leave you. Come, citizens, we will entreat no more.
Call them back. Sweet prince, accept their suit. If you deny them, all the land will rue it.
Will you enforce me to a world of care? Call them again. I am not made of stone, but penetrable to your kind entreaties, albeit against my conscience and my soul, cousin of Buckingham and sage, grave men. Since you will buckle fortune on my back, I must have patience to endure the load. But if black scandal or foul-faced reproach attend the sequel of your imposition, your mere enforcement shall acquittance me from all the impure blots and stains thereof, for God doth know, and you may partly see how far I am from the desire of this.
God bless your grace. We see it and will say it. Amen. Long live King Richard. Long live King Richard. England's worthy king. England's worthy king. Long live King Richard. Long live King Richard. Long live King Richard. Long live King Richard.
Reached it now. Richard has reached the throne. He's surrounded with the usual complement of lords, spiritual and temporal, of all the usual pomp and circumstance. is invested with the royal scepter and diadem at the Abbey at Westminster. But never a more uneasy head wore a crown, and never a throne mounted by a king cast a darker shadow towards the future.
Stand all apart. Cousin of Buckingham, give me thy hand. Thus high by thy advice and thy assistance is King Richard seated. But shall we wear these glories for a day, or shall they live and we rejoice in them?
Still live they, and forever let them last.
Young Edward lives. Think now what I would speak.
Say on, my loving lord.
Why, Buckingham, I say I would be king.
Why, so you are, my thrice-renowned liege.
Am I king? 'Tis so, but Edward lives. Cousin, thou wast not wont to be so dull. Shall I be plain? I wish the prince is dead, and I would have it suddenly performed. What sayest thou now?
Your grace may do your pleasure.
Tut, tut, thou art all ice. Thy kindness freezes. Say, have I thy consent that they shall die?
Give me some little breath, some pause, dear lord, before I positively speak in this. I will resolve you herein presently.
The deep revolving witty Buckingham no more shall be the neighbor to my counsels. Hath he held out with me so long untired, and stops he now for breath? Well, be it so. Catesby.
My gracious sovereign.
Knowest thou not any whom corrupting gold will tempt unto a close exploit of death?
I know a discontented gentleman whose humble means match not his haughty spirit. Gold were as good as 20 orators and will no doubt tempt him to anything.
What is his name?
His name, my lord, is Tyrrell.
And bloody act is done. The most arch deed of piteous massacre that ever yet this land was guilty of. Thus, girdling one another, lay the gentle babes. Their lips were 4 red roses on a stalk, which in their summer beauty kissed each other. A book of prayers on their pillow lay, which almost changed my mind. I smothered the most replenished sweet work of nature that from the prime creation ere she framed.
Kind Tyrrell, am I happy in thy news?
If to have done the thing you gave in charge beget your happiness, be happy then, for it is done.
But didst thou see them dead?
I did, my lord.
And buried, gentle Tyrrell?
The chaplain of the tower hath buried them. But where, to tell the truth, I do not know.
Ah, my poor princess. Ah, my tender babes. Wilt thou, O God, fly from such gentle lambs and throw them in the entrails of the wolf? When didst thou sleep when such a deed was done? Oh, would to God But the inclusive verge of golden metal that must round my brow, where red-hot steel doth sear me to the brain. Anointed let me be with deadly venom, and die ere men can say, God save the Queen.
To feed my humour, wish thyself no harm. Poor soul, I blame thee not.
No, why? When he that is my husband now came to me as I followed Henry's course, this was my wish. Be thou, I quoth, accursed, for making me so young, so old a widow. And be thy wife, if any be so mad, more miserable by the life of thee than thou hast made me by my dear Lord's death. Lo, ere I could repeat this curse again, within so small a time, my woman's heart grossly grew captive to his honey words, and proved the subject of mine own soul.
Who have any cause to mourn but I?
If ancient sorrow be most reverend, give mine the benefit of seigneury. I had an Edward till a Richard killed him. I had a Harry till a Richard killed him. Thou hadst an Edward till a Richard killed him. Thou hadst a Richard till a Richard killed him.
Oh, Margaret, thou prophesied the time should come that I should wish for thee to help me curse that bottle spider, that foul bunchback toad.
Richard yet lives, but at hand ensues his piteous and unpitied end. Earth gapes, hell burns, fiends roar, saints pray to have him suddenly conveyed from hence. Cancel his bond of life, dear God. I pray that I may live to say, the dog is dead.
For King Richard to stand against the fury of such hate as this would be the marvel of his or any other age. In it are the elements to shape his remaining days. From it springs his final and most potent antagonist, Henry, Earl of Richmond, last survivor of the old Lancastrian line, long in exile across the Channel in Brittany, all but disregarded as a serious claimant to the crown, all but forgotten during the popular reign of the late Edward. Upon the brutal killing of the little princes in the Tower, this quiet earl now becomes the hope and rallying point of all the British nobles, sickened by King Richard's bloody rule, shamed at their own complacence. Buckingham is among the first to join the rebels, though in his case fear, not justice, is the motive. And from this time on, every day the disaffection mounts. And every day messengers bring tidings of the rebellion's growing strength to an increasingly uneasy Richard.
With you. My lord, I hear the Marquis Dorset fled to Richmond in those parts beyond the sea where he abides.
Good news or bad that thou comest in so bluntly?
Bad news, my lord. Ely has fled to Richmond, and Buckingham, backed with a hardy Welshman, is in the field, and still his power increaseth.
How now, what news?
Mighty sovereign, on the western coast rideth a puissant navy. To the shores throng many doubtful, hollow-hearted friends, unarmed and unresolved to beat them back. 'Tis thought that Richmond is their admiral.
As I remember, Henry VI did prophesy that Richmond should be king, when Richmond was a little peevish boy. How chanced the prophet could not at that time have told me, I being by, that I should kill him. Richmond. When last I was at Exeter, the mayor in courtesy showed me the castle and called it Rougemont, at which name I started, because a bard of Ireland told me once I should not live long after I saw Richmond.
My gracious sovereign, now in Devonshire, Sir Edward Courtenay and his brother there, with many more confederates, are in arms.
In Kent-Belize, the Guilfords are in arms. My lord, the army of Great Buckingham.
Out on the owls! Nothing but sons of death!
My liege, the Duke of Buckingham is taken.
Someone take order Buckingham be brought straightway to Salisbury and the headsman's block.
That is the best news. That the Earl of Richmond is with a mighty power landed at Milford is colder news, but yet they must be told.
Away towards Salisbury! While we reason here, a royal battle might be won and lost. Then fiery expedition be my wing. Jove's Mercury and herald for a king.
Here, pitch our tents, even here in Bosworth Fields. Up with my tent. Here will I lie tonight. But where tomorrow? Well, all's one for that. Up with the tents. Come, noble gentlemen, let us survey the vantage of the ground. It calls for some men of sound direction. Let's lack no discipline, make no delay. For, sirs, tomorrow is a busy day.
This place is Bosworth Field, a broad and gentle plain lying athwart the British Midlands. And in this twilight hour, all sky and space and calm. And now, as he settles for the night, should Richard lay his ear against the ground, he could scarcely fail to catch the distant rumble of his adversary's coming. The Earl of Richmond is crossing England in a day, spurring himself and his men towards King Richard, Bosworth Field, and tomorrow.
Fellows in arms and my most loving friends, bruised underneath the yoke of tyranny, the wretched, bloody, and usurping boar that spoiled your summer fields and fruitful vines, swills your warm blood like wash and makes his trough in your emboweled bosoms, this foul swine is now even in the center of this isle, near to the town of Leicester, as we learn. From Tamworth thither is but one day's march. In God's name, cheerly on, courageous friends, to reap the harvest of perpetual peace by this one bloody trial of sharp war.
Every man's conscience is 1,000 men to fight against this guilty homicide.
I doubt not that his friends will turn to us.
He hath no friends but what are friends for fear, which in his dearest need will fly to us.
All for our vantage, then. In God's name, march! True hope is swift and flies with swallows' wings. Kings it makes gods, and meaner creatures kings!
What is the clock?
It's supper time, my liege. It's 9 o'clock.
I will not sup tonight. What, is my beaver easier than it was, and all my armor laid into my tent?
It is, my liege, and all things are in readiness.
Ratcliffe,
My lord.
fill me a bowl of wine. Give me a watch. Saddle white surrey for the field tomorrow. Look that my staves be sound, but not too heavy. Catesby.
My lord?
Give me a bowl of wine. I have not that alacrity of spirit, nor cheer of mind that I was wont to have. Bid my guard watch. Leave me. Catesby.
Lord?
About the mid of night, come to my tent and help to arm me. Leave me, I say. O coward conscience, how thou dost afflict me. The lights burn blue. It is now dead midnight. Cold, fearful drops stand on my trembling flesh. What do I fear? Myself? There's none else by. Richard loves Richard. That is, I am I.
Washed to death with fulsome wine. Poor Clarence, by thy guile betrayed to death. Tomorrow in the battle think on me, and fall thy edgeless sword. Despair, and die.
Dream on thy cousin, smothered in the tower. Let us be led within my bosom, Richard, and weigh thee down to ruin, shame, and death. Thy nephew's souls bid thee despair and die.
Let me sit heavy on thy soul tomorrow. Rivers that died at Pomfret, despair and die. Bloody and guilty, guiltily awake, and in a bloody battle end thy days. Think on Lord Hastings, despair and die. The first was I that helped thee to the crown. The last was I that felt thy tyranny. Oh, in the battle think on Buckingham, and die in terror of thy guiltiness.
Is there a murderer here? No. Yes, I am. Then fly. What, from myself? Great reason why. Lest I revenge. What, myself upon myself? Alack, I love myself. Wherefore? For any good that I myself have done unto myself? Oh, no. Alas, I rather hate myself for hateful deeds committed by myself. I am a villain. Yet I lie am not. Fool, of thyself speak well. Fool, do not flatter. My conscience hath 1,000 several tongues, and every tongue condemns me for a villain. Perjury. Perjury in the highest degree. Murder. Stern murder in the direst degree. All several sins, all used in each degree, throng to the bar, crying, oh, guilty, guilty. I shall despair. There is no creature loves me. And if I die, no soul shall pity me. Nay, wherefore should they? since that I myself find in myself no pity to myself.
My lord.
Who's there?
My lord, 'tis I. The early village cock hath twice done salutation to the morn. Your friends are up and buckle on their armor.
Oh, Catesby, I have dreamed a fearful dream. What thinkest thou? Will our friends prove all true?
No doubt, my lord.
Oh, Catesby, I fear.
Aye, fear. Nay, good my liege, be not afraid of shadows.
By the Apostle Paul, shadows tonight have struck more terror to the soul of Richard than can the substance of 10,000 soldiers armed in proof and led by shallow Richmond. It is not yet near day. Come, go with me. Under our tents I'll play the eavesdropper, to hear if any mean to shrink from me.
Good morrow, Richmond.
Good morrow, noble lord.
How have you slept, my lord?
The sweetest sleep, the fairest boding dreams that ever entered in a drowsy head have I since your departure had, my lord. How far into the morning is?
Upon the stroke of 4.
Why then, 'tis time to arm and give direction. More than I have said, loving countrymen, the leisure and enforcement of the time forbids to dwell on. Yet, remember this. God and our good cause fight upon our side. The prayers of holy saints and wronged souls, like high-reared bulwarks, stand before our faces. Richard accepts. Those whom we fight against had rather have us win than him they follow. For what is he they follow? Truly, gentlemen, a bloody tyrant and a homicide. One raised in blood and one in blood established. One that hath ever been God's enemy. Now, if you fight against God's enemy, God will in justice ward you as his soldiers. Then, in the name of God and all these rights, advance your standards, draw your willing swords. For me, the ransom of my bold attempt shall be this cold course on the earth's cold face. But if I thrive, the gain of my attempt, the least of you shall share his part thereof. Sound drums and trumpets, boldly and cheerfully. God and St. George, Richmond and victory!
Who saw the sun today?
Not I, my lord.
Then he disdains to shine. For by the book he should have braved the east an hour ago. A black day will it be to somebody. Catesby?
My lord?
The sun will not be seen today. The sky doth frown and lower upon our army. I would these dewy tears were from the ground. Not shine today. What is that to me more than to Richmond? For the self-same heaven that frowns on me looks sadly upon him.
Arm, my lord, the foe vaunts in the fields. Come, battle, to Paris and my horse. Go, gentlemen, every man to his charge. Let not our babbling dreams affright our souls, for conscience is a word that coward use, devised at first to keep the strong in awe. Our strong arms be our conscience, sword our law. March on, join bravely, let us toot pell-mell, if not to heaven, then hand in hand to hell. Rescue, my lord of Norfolk, rescue! The king enacts more wonders than a man, daring and opposite to every danger. His horse is slain and all on foot he fights, seeking for Richmond in the throat of death. Rescue, fair lord, or else the day is lost. A horse! A horse! My kingdom for a horse! Restore, my lord, I'll help you to a horse.
Slave, I have set my life upon a cast, and I will stand the hazard of the die. I think there be 6 Richmonds in the field. 5 have I slain today instead of him. A horse! A horse! My kingdom for a horse!
God and your arms be praised, victorious friends. The day is ours. The bloody dog is dead. And then, as we have ta'en the sacrament, we will unite the white rose and the red. England has long been mad and scarred herself. The brother blindly shed the brother's blood. The father rashly slaughtered his own son. The son compelled, being butcher to the sire. All this divided York and Lancaster. Now civil wounds are stopped. Peace lives again. That she may long live here, God say, Amen.
Long live King Henry! Long live King Henry! Long
The Columbia Workshop has presented the Old Vic Theatre Company of London, England, in a special 1 1/2 hour arrangement of the tragedy of King Richard III by William Shakespeare, starring Laurence Olivier in the part of Richard and Ralph Richardson as narrator. Other feature players in the cast were Joyce Redmond as Queen Anne, Margaret Leighton as Queen Elizabeth, Ina Burrell as Queen Margaret, Harry Andrews as Buckingham, Sidney Taffler as Catesby, and Peter Copley as Tyrrell. Special music was composed and conducted by Herbert Menges. The text was prepared for broadcast by James and Elizabeth Hart, and the production was directed by John Burrell, who had the association of Richard Sanville of CBS. Ralph Richardson, who was the narrator in today's broadcast, will have the title role of Henrik Ibsen's Peer Gynt, which will be the second of the 2 special 90-minute Columbia Workshop presentations of the Old Vic Theatre Company of London. This repertory company is currently appearing in New York City under the auspices of Theatre Incorporated. Tune in again next week for Peer Gynt by the Old Vic Theatre Company. Your announcer is Harry Marble.
Penny for those thoughts.
Oh. I was thinking I'm glad we're going home, Roger. I hope this summer has given us both ample time to think this thing out.
Well, actually, darling, we have too much invested in this marriage. 10 years cannot be dispelled by one summer.
Well, that isn't exactly what I meant, but... Oh, let's listen to the radio, shall we?
I hope we've had an end to this sulking and...
What was that, Roger? Felt like we hit something.
Nonsense, I ran off the road.
Oh, Roger, please, slow down. Roger, listen. Sounds like a woman screaming. Oh, please, let's go back. I'm sure you've hit something.
I didn't hear anything, Kay. I'm sure we didn't hit anything.
This is the CBS Radio Workshop, the theater of the mind dedicated to man's imagination. Our story, Grief Drives a Black Sedan, stars Alice Frost and Lee Vines. Written, produced, and directed by D. Engelbach.
Will driver of black sedan pull over, please? Driver of black sedan, pull over.
Roger, we should have gone back.
Kay, none of your hysterics now, please.
I'm sure we must...
Oh, just be quiet.
You realize how fast you were going?
Yes, officer. I was going 40 miles an hour, and that doesn't really seem like an excessive amount of speed to me.
It is in a 25-mile zone. Although you can't see it from the road, this area is quite thickly populated. There are always children about. I see a driver's license.
Hey, Tom. Look here a moment.
Okay.
Roger, do
Shut
you
up,
think we
Kay.
really...
Kay, there's nothing these state police would rather do than to stop a car with a New York state license. And I was only going 40 miles an hour.
I'm afraid it's more serious than that.
More serious than what?
Move over, please.
Say, what's all this about?
I'm taking you to the police barracks in Westport.
What have we done, officer?
That's for you to tell me, madam. You see, your front left fender is dented.
Is that a crime in this state?
We'll have to find out. You see, around that dent is blood.
Captain would like to see you in his office.
May I come along, Roger?
No, darling, you stay out of this. I'll find out what this is all about.
Roger, remember...
Stay out of this. I'll be back in a moment.
Sit down, please. You are Roger Wickens, 25 Park Plaza Road, New York City?
Yes, I am. What's this all about?
I'm returning your driver's license and your car registration. We've checked the New York police. You've not had any previous accident record. What happened tonight, Mr. Wickens?
What do you mean, what happened? I drove up here from New York City to take my wife home. She's been summering up here, and that's all there is to it. And I want you to stop treating me like a criminal. I was driving down Cross Highway when the police stopped me for driving 40 miles an hour.
Excuse me. Yes. Yeah. Well, keep checking. Check every hospital within 25 miles. When you finish that, check all the doctor's residence in the vicinity. Send someone to retrace Cross Highway. Yes. Well, I think you'll find somewhere, not too far from where the Wickens' car was stopped, some blood stains and possible pieces of glass. Report back as soon as possible. Yes, who? Oh, Doc's out there. We'll send him in.
Captain, What about this? Are we under arrest?
Well, there are two ways we can do this. We can technically arrest you for driving 40 miles an hour in a 25-mile zone. Or of your own volition, you can wait until all these things check out. Look, I think you're in trouble. I think you've hit somebody and run away from the accident.
Of all the stupid things that I've ever heard of,
Hello, Captain. Okay, what is it? Oh, excuse me.
Hello, Doc. Well, what will it be, Mr. Wickens?
I'll wait. What about my wife?
Well, she'd better wait, too.
He seems rather touchy.
Yeah. Doc, why don't you take some blood samples, run them through the lab, report back to me as soon as you can. I believe this is a case of hit and run. I want to have all my facts.
Another no cooperation guy, huh?
That's right, Doc. They never learn, do they?
Cigarette?
Thanks, Tony. Roger, did you tell them?
Tell them what?
Oh, please, darling. Remember when we ran off the road, I told you I thought I heard a woman scream.
Kay, I did not hear a woman scream, and I did not hit anything. This is all a fantastic nightmare. It seems it started when you came up here. There was no reason for all of this. We should have gone to Europe this summer and behaved like two mature people. 10 years of marriage, and we're still trying to figure out whether or not it will work.
It's not going to work, Roger. I believe this was all for a reason tonight. I believe we're both in trouble.
Nonsense.
Roger, we must share that responsibility.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Kay, what responsibility?
The blood on the fender.
Hello. Yes. You found what? Where? Bayberry Lane. Let me get this down now. Bayberry Lane and Cross Highway. Yeah, I'm a regular Sherlock Holmes. How'd I know what? Never mind about that. No one at the house, huh? Well, you stay there. Keep calling in. No, Doc's still working. There's nothing to report here. Wickens denies everything. Okay, stay with it. Right.
Do you want me to send out for some coffee?
Oh, no, thank you.
Well, it's past midnight. Eddie and Joanne said they would wait at the Maroc until 1. What a wonderful homecoming party this turned out to be.
Well, you win the Superficiality Award for the year. Eddie and Joanne, the Maroc, the whole stupid, silly pattern. Roger, don't you realize you may have killed someone tonight?
Kay, let's stop this bickering, this hammering at each other. I did not hit anyone tonight. Now, starting with that premise, let's see if we can discuss intelligently our own problems.
This is not the time nor the place. Actually, Roger, there is no problem. I'm leaving you. I don't blame you, Roger. I really don't know whose fault it is. Perhaps it's mine.
Oh, no, it's mine. All I've ever done was given in to every little whim you ever had.
Have you, Roger? Oh, yes, you've given me things. Money, a beautiful home. And oh, so much loneliness. What good are possessions? Oh, I know this sounds trite and very cliché. But I'm tired, Roger. We've failed. I don't know whose fault it is. I don't know where we really started to grow apart. I just want out.
Well, darling, as usual, your timing is superb. I'm up to my neck in trouble because of you.
Oh, please. No more of the comparisons, no more recriminations. Until we know what's happened here, let's just wait. Wait.
Yes, Tom. You did. A signed statement. Feels pretty bad, huh? Yeah, what about the charges? It does. Hold a minute, Tom. Paul, have Doc call me. Yes, Tom, you were saying? Hit about 10 o'clock. Dead, huh? It's too bad. Yeah, right. Doc, drop your test. We have all we want. Okay, Tom, get back here as fast as you can. Right. Paul, bring that Wiggins guy in here.
It's 1:30. Roger, why don't you ask the captain if they found out anything?
Yes, I guess you're right. I will.
Mr. Wickens?
Yes.
Officer, what have you found out?
Mr. Wickens, the captain wants to see you.
Right.
What do you do with 10 years? Can you write it off? Can you forget it? 10 years and you look at someone, and that someone you've known for 10 years, and you realize, oh, this night, this long night, what have we done? 10 years. 10 whole years. What do you do with memories? Just lock them in a safety deposit box? Or do you tie them up neatly in pink ribbons and burn them? What do you do with plans? Those blueprints for the future? And what do you do with love? The community property of love, split down the middle and shared by no one. 10 years. 10 years. 10 years.
Kay.
Oh, I'm sorry, darling. I must have dozed off.
Yes, about an hour. Don't be sorry. I needed the time to think. Kay, I must talk to you.
Oh, haven't we had enough talk for one night?
Just a bit more patience, darling. A cigarette?
Roger, for heaven's sake, what's happened?
Kay, I must tell you this in my own way. And for whatever love you once had for me, please hear me out. I want you to know...
Oh, Roger, please.
I want you to know this is no plea for any kind of sympathy. I know, Kay, why our marriage failed. You see, believe me, this isn't easy. I know I'm a coward. Tonight, I did hit something. More than that, I took a life.
Roger, no.
Please, darling, let me finish this. All my life, I've been hitting and telling myself that I didn't hit. All my life, I've been running away. All my life, I've been a coward.
Oh,
I wonder how much I've lost in love, respect, friendship. I wonder how much of myself has been sacrificed so carelessly, so needlessly, because I didn't take time to stop and go back to pick up that which I had hit. You see, darling, I guess I've always been driving 40 miles an hour in a 25-mile zone. And the ironical part about this whole thing is that the police were not going to arrest me for speeding, but merely warned me to take it easy. I guess maybe help of any kind has always made me angry, and truth always hurt my ears.
Roger, darling, would you please...
I know I killed tonight. Needlessly. Carelessly. And, Kay, I want you to hear this letter the captain just gave me. And I want you to know, darling, that no more do I blame everybody else for my emptiness. To the man who killed my dog. I hope you were going someplace important when you drove so fast down Cross Highway across Bayberry Lane tonight. I hope that when you got there, the time you saved by speeding meant something to you or somebody else. Maybe we'd feel better if we could imagine that you were a doctor rushing somewhere to deliver a baby or ease somebody's pain. The life of our dog to shorten someone's suffering, that mightn't have been so bad. But even though all we saw of you was the black shadow of your car and its jumping red taillights as you roared down the road, we know too much about you to believe it. You saw the dog. You stepped on your brakes. You felt a thump. You heard a yelp and then my wife's scream. Your reflexes are better than your heart and stronger than your courage. We know that. Because you jumped on the gas again and got out of there as fast as your car could carry you. Whoever you are, mister, and whatever you do for a living, we know you are a killer. And in your hands, driving the way you drove tonight, your car is a murder weapon. You didn't bother to look, so I'll tell you what the thump and the yelp were. They were Vicky, a 6-month-old basset puppy, white with brown and black markings. An aristocrat with 12 champions among her forebears. But she clowned and she chased and she loved people and kids and other dogs as much as any mongrel on earth. I'm sorry you didn't stick around to see the job you did, though a dog dying by the side of the road isn't a very pretty sight. In less than 2 seconds, you and that car of yours transformed a living being that had been beautiful, warm, clean, soft, and loving
into something dirty, ugly, broken and bloody. A poor, shocked, mad thing that tried to sink its teeth into the hand it had nuzzled and licked all its life. I hope to God that when you hit my dog, you had for a moment the sick, dead feeling in the throat and down to the stomach that we've known ever since. And that you feel it whenever you think about speeding down a winding country road again. Because the next time, some 8-year-old boy might be wobbling along on his first bicycle. Or a very little one might wander out past the gate and into the road the moment it takes his father to bend down to pull a weed out of the driveway. The way my puppy got away from me. Or maybe you'll be real lucky again and only kill another dog and break the heart of another family. Signed, Richard Joseph, Westport, Connecticut. Well, Kay, that's it. No charges. No arrest. No...
Roger. Oh, darling. Please, let's go home.
Ladies and gentlemen, the governor of the state of New York, Averell Harriman.
Thoughtlessness and irresponsibility go hand in hand and cause far too many tragedies on our highways. The thoughtless driver who ignores traffic regulations, hoping to get away with it, hides behind the idea, no witness, no crime. But too often, this leads down a road of final accounting. Only by constant care, courtesy, and observance of the rules of the road can you be sure of avoiding the day when grief drives your car and brings tragedy to your family or that of another. The streamlined, high-powered automobiles of today demand of us the same intelligence and care in handling that has gone into their design. This weekend and in the future, I appeal to everyone to drive carefully, drive safely, assure a happy holiday for all.
You've been listening to the CBS Radio Workshop, Grief Drives a Black Sedan, written by D. Engelbach. A Letter to the Man Who Killed My Dog is from the book of the same title, written by Richard Joseph and published by Frederick Fell. Today's cast: Alice Frost, Lee Vines, Ralph Bell, Bill Mason, Larry Haynes, Jay Johnson. Next week from Hollywood, People Are No Good. Ted Pearson speaking.
This is the CBS Radio Network.
My name is Poe, Edgar Allan Poe. I write stories. Charges have been brought against me by certain ignoramuses that I have never written a tale with a moral. By way of mitigating these ridiculous accusations, I offer the following unusual history, a history about whose moral there can be no question whatsoever. For you can see the moral in its very title, Never Bet the Devil Your Head. And note, please, that I do not bring in the lesson at the tag end of the fable, as others are wont to do. Very well, here then I denounce my critics and beg no favor other than your close attention.
From Hollywood, the CBS Radio Workshop.
dedicated to man's imagination, the theater of the mind. The world too long thought of Edgar Allan Poe as a dour misogynist who concerned himself with black cats, gold bugs, pits, pendulums, and murder. Few realize, and fewer would believe, that this man of gloom had a sense of humor. This, the workshop now seeks to prove in William N. Robeson's production of Edgar Allan Poe's satiric story, Never Bet the Devil Your Head, starring John Dehner, with music conducted by Amerigo Marino, and with Jack Johnstone as guest director.
It is not my design to vituperate my deceased friend, Toby Dammit. He was a sad dog, it is true, and a dog's death it was that he died. But he himself was not to blame for his vices. They grew out of a personal defect in his mother. I recall a conversation I had with her when Toby was a mere babe in arms.
Duties to a well-regulated mind, Mr. Poe, are always pleasures. It is my duty, and therefore my pleasure, to see that as quickly as possible my son learns the difference between right and wrong.
But must you flog him so, Mrs. Dammit?
Babies, like tough steaks, are invariably the better for beating. It drives the evil propensities out.
But my dear woman, you have the misfortune to be left-handed.
I do not consider left-handedness a misfortune.
No, you fail to understand me. Madam, a child flogged left-handedly had better be left unflogged.
And deign to tell me why?
The world revolves from right to left. If each blow in the proper direction drives out an evil propensity, it follows that every thump in an opposite one knocks its quota of wickedness in.
Ha! That is a specious argument that does not warrant a reply, except perhaps this.
I was all too often present at Toby's chastisements, and even by the way he kicked, I could perceive that he was getting worse and worse every day. At last I saw, through tears in my eyes, that there was no hope for the villain at all, and one day when he had been cuffed until he grew black in the face, that no effect had been produced beyond that of making him wriggle himself into a fit, I could stand it no longer, but went down on my knees forthwith and, uplifting my voice, made a prophecy of his ruin. For the fact is that his precocity in vice was awful. At 5 months of age, he got into such passions that he was unable to articulate. At 6 months, I caught him gnawing at a pack of playing cards. At 7 months, he was in the constant habit of catching and kissing female babies. At 8 months, he peremptorily refused to put his signature to the temperance pledge.
No.
Thus he went on, increasing in iniquity month after month, year after year, until in his youth.
Mama, it is my desire to wear mustaches, and furthermore,